nervousness born from the earth, my madness came by storm. I heard heaven and hell, but how can I be mad? Across the table, I'll tell you the tale. I wanted for nothing from the old man, not even gold. I'll tell no lie, it was the old man's eye, a veiled pale blue eye. Peering into it, my blood ran cold. My heart is where I hold a secret plan for this old man. A descent into madness, it cannot be, it was the old man, not me. A pounding, a beating, the heart kept screaming. You may think me mad, but how for madness knows nothing. I sit here, my mind clear, this tale I tell. Are these the sounds from hell? 7 days I crept planning, but never did the eye reveal itself till that night. A slip, a sound, awakened did he, but I could not flee. I felt his fear, that we tried to comfort and steer his dread, for he lay back in his bed. In flash I jumped on him, dragging him down. Now no more sound, he lie there, dead on the ground. Descent into madness, it cannot be, it was the old man, not me. A pounding, a beating, the heart kept screaming. Both fear and glee swept over me. No one would ever find the body. Sometime now they came, sat chatting, but I could hear it, the heart beating. It grew louder and louder, I could no longer contain myself as I slid the chair. They still stayed there, not leaving, my anxiety rising. Could they not hear the beating heart coming from beyond the dark? No longer could I stand it, came my admittance. Here it is, the beating of his hideous heart. A descent into madness, it cannot be, it was the old man, not me. A pounding, a beating, the heart kept screaming.
Of thoughts, watching your every move. I'm obsessed with you. Twisted thoughts erupting and slowly decaying. My jealousy, my envy is tearing me apart. A wicked man and his wicked deeds.
Masquerading as a child
a
of
monster
light.
with his cruel knees, as he dances with his sick fantasy.
What is done in the dark will always be brought to light.
Slithering around the murky green swamp, voodoo priests enchanting the dance, making deals in the dark spirits and all that they hunt. A wicked man and his wicked deeds,
masquerading as a child
a
of light.
monster with his cruel needs,
Envy he cannot
as he
fight.
dances with his sick fantasy.
What is done in the dark will always be brought to light.
A foul smell in the air, potions fill my lair, deception lurking and waiting, with envy in my eye. My spirits ascend to spy. Voodoo is the ritual, odor fills the room, smoke-stained walls, and the energy is gloom. A wicked man and his wicked deeds,
Masquerading as a child
a
of light.
monster with his cruel needs,
Envy he
as
cannot
he
fight.
dances with his sick fantasy.
What is done in the dark will always be brought to light.
Twisting the truth, for there is none in me, weaving dark magic all through the night. Tears of envy my jealousy ignites, darkness encasing alive in the night. My lying tongue.
All right, folks. My eyes are burning. Welcome to Paranormal Roundtable. I'm your host, Josh Turner. This is PRT. Join us in the real reality. The real reality. A lot of stuff to talk about. Yes, join the Patreon. We did the Patreon yesterday, Bigfoot in New Mexico. A lot of fun. I'm having a lot of fun with the Patreon. It's been a lot of fun. We've been getting a lot of recording done. We got another persons we're going to record with this weekend, and it's just been awesome getting it done. So this Friday we got Sage Cooley coming on, and then the next week, it's for the next 2 weeks, we got Sage, and we get into all kinds of stuff. If you didn't see the Friday show, Locked In with the Vampire, that's Sage's story. Like, you got to check it out, man. To give you a little background, so you guys can go check it out. I mean, his mother's partner, let's put it that way, was into some dark stuff, and she knew that there was this vampire that, I'm gonna let Tony get situated there.
This chair, man.
That chair is very loud. I'm not blaming you, just moving around once you get situated. We just haven't, got so many bills to pay. I'm gonna have to start selling my gold to get it freaking paid. If y'all could just say a couple prayers before we get started here. Just gotta say, we're trying to get some stuff done, and we need the money to get this stuff done. And if you guys would be so generous as to pray for us that we can get this done, it'd be great. Because work is not doing too good. I'm trying to get my salespeople up there, and it's so cutthroat. Security is a very cutthroat business, and real estate is too. We have some real estate stuff going on, and it's just like everything is tanked. Everything is tanked at the same time. So the show has not been doing as well as we would like until recently. Now, here's a weird thing. In the last 2 weeks, our sub count has been climbing. Our memberships are growing. Our Patreon is definitely growing. The Patreon I'm really proud of. And the Patreon, what we're doing on the Patreon, and then I'll get back to what we were talking about with Sage. The Patreon is like we have this like a map, and we go to the map, and I show you the locations of where there's been Bigfoot activity. Most of these stories I was able to get and talk to the people. Not all of them though. Some of them were just stuff I plucked off of the internet and Facebook, Facebook groups and things like that. And most of them are, I mean, if somebody tells their story and puts it out there, I mean, I don't think they have a problem with you talking about it. But if somebody didn't, there's people that'll say, I have a story, and, then you have to talk to them and get that encounter. And a lot of times it's just them giving me like a rundown through Facebook Messenger. That's where a lot of it comes from. It's just Facebook Messenger. And somebody, yeah, I saw this, blah, 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 blah. It's not that hard to do. I mean, if you really, but it's time consuming. It is. And I was talking to I was going to say, he's not really a competitor. We're not really in competition. He's
contemporary.
Yeah, he's a I don't know what you would call him, like a colleague. I was talking to him, and he was talking about how competitive it is, how people are sort of territorial over these damn stories. And it's like,
it's like their intellectual property or something.
Yeah. Be right back.
Act like Nintendo with the intellectual property. Like, I have the exclusive rights to this story. It's trademarked, copyrighted, even though I don't know the difference between the two. I'm just going to throw those two words out there willy-nilly, and the experience that this person told me belongs to me now. All your base are belong to us. It's not how it works, man. I mean, when someone puts their story, their experience out there, I mean, it's obviously at their discretion, like who they want to tell it, and you should be respectful of that. But if someone just puts it out there and just with no kind of stipulations, like let's say they share it in a group, it doesn't mean that like it's yours to take and claim and say like, well, anyone else who covers this story is copying me. No, that this is this person's experience. They put it out there in the public domain because they want to take it out there and find like-minded people who maybe can help them understand what the hell it is that they saw or heard or experienced. It's not some like competition. We're not Mexican crabs in the barrel pulling each other down. At least that's not what we're supposed to be doing. Like the information is supposed to be freely flowing, not hoarded and used for profit or ego or whatever. That's ridiculous. Anyway, what do we got going on in the chat?
Make sure the guys hit the like and subscribe if you don't mind. We appreciate it, everyone who's here.
Shitty Vikings. So blame PRT for turning me into a vampire. Yeah, Amy Krill. So the Mexican crabs in a barrel means it's like an anecdote. So you have one type of crab in one barrel, one type of crab in another barrel, and all the other barrels with all the other different kind of crabs, they have a lid on them so the crabs won't get out. But the anecdote is that the barrel with the Mexican crabs is that you don't have to put a lid on it. There's never a lid on it. And someone comes along and asks, why? Why is there not a lid on the barrel with the Mexican crabs? And the ship captain says, well, you don't have to put a lid on it because whenever one of the crabs gets to the top, the other ones just pull them down. So they stay in the barrel, all of them together. Like that's like it's like to illustrate a mentality of like me, mine, and it keeps everyone down.
And it's it's what they call celoso.
Yeah, jealousy.
People are jealous, that you have what they think they deserve. And my patrino, my godfather, told me that story years ago. He said, "You ever heard the story of the Mexican crabs?" And he told me that.
Yeah.
And it's a story that a lot of Mexicanos know. Like it's basically like you don't got to worry. They're going to pull you down because And I told that to one of my black friends. He started laughing. And he told me this, my friend Dar, he told me the same thing. He was like, dude, it's the black community. They do the same thing. But
you got to lift each other up.
So here's a weird thing. So I'm not going to say where, but we were at the gym last night. And if you think demonic influence is not happening, it's definitely happening.
Oh, yeah.
We walked into the gym late last night, me and Anthony. Tony was on the way, and me and Anthony had just went over there, and Tony was having to drive from a little further away, so we decided to meet at a gym we don't normally go to. It's not a bad area, but there are homeless people in that area, and this homeless dude, like, I guess he was trying to spit game to the girl that was working there, and I was like, it was just stupid, weird, whatever. Well, I didn't agree with his weird ass take on society. And it seemed like he was trying to get racial and trying to talk about who was running the streets and who was running all the government and
None of it made any sense.
And I was just like standing there listening to this dude. And he asked me point blank, and I told him I was who I thought it was and what it was. And this dude flipped out. And he started trying to follow me as I'm going in to work out. And I'm like, dude, I'm going to go do my workout. I really don't care about I don't care about what you got going on. All right. I don't care about your weird ass philosophy, your belief. I don't give a crap, whatever, whatever, So I just tried to walk away, and he kept going. And the lady working there, she was like, hey, you're not a member. Tell him this guy. And you could look at him and tell he was not a member. He was very disheveled. And then because Anthony pulled his truck, it was right up front. He saw us get out of it. So I looked at Anthony. I said, man, I'm going to watch this guy. He's probably going to try to do something. And he goes, let's go outside. So he goes right out there by our truck. And I said, and I was like mentally unhinged, just looked crazy in the eyes. So I walked out there. And he asked me what I was going to do. He didn't come back toward me. He just took off walking around the truck. And I just told him, just don't break anything or I'll call the law, And then he says, yeah, I'm recording you in your harassment.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I said, dude, I don't have time for this, man. I don't know what this is. Just please, get away from my vehicle and go walk away. You're obviously not a member at the gym, and just, it's not my job to kick this dude out. I'm not the security for that place. And I was like, dude, just go away, and I was nice to him at that point. So just leave me alone. We'll leave you alone, making sure he didn't try to come toward the truck, tear it up or anything. And, so I went back inside, and the lady was on the phone with the security, and she was not he was there she was by herself with this guy.
Yeah.
Till we got there. Mm-hmm. For who knows how long. She said it was a while.
She's basically a captive audience.
And she was like, I was just like letting him talk. I mean, at first I thought, he's just here, he's talking about stuff, somebody to pass the time, whatever. But then she's like, he didn't leave. It's like, you're not a member, And she's like, she can't, and obviously she can't call the police or the cop, the security. They have the security that drives around over there.
Yeah,
he did a good job. He was actually a good guard. And obviously, he doesn't leave. And she's just like, this guy's not leaving. And he got more aggressive, and wanted to make sure she was focusing on what he was saying, And he was a gangster from New Jersey, man. He was telling me, and I'm like, wow, really? Because no, you're not. Or you wouldn't be homeless here in Austin. So shut up. So, anyways, I could imagine her just standing there like with this crazed out dude, and he's watching her. She can't pick up the phone and go, hey, there's a crazy guy here. So she has to just stand there and deal with this nut job. And she's like, it's on camera, but those people don't give a shit about cameras.
No.
They do not give a shit about cameras. 90% of the crime happens on properties that have cameras. People put up a camera and they think it's a deterrent, or they think that it's going to save them. No. Because homeless people, they're like ninjas, dude. Like, they do their crime and then fade back into the shadows, They don't care. They're just faceless people. So This dude just, you know, and he wanted me to like agree with him about his weird, like, you know,
This incoherent worldview.
I guess I'm supposed to be like, yeah, Whitey sucks. I don't know. I don't know what the hell he wanted. I didn't give a shit. I'm like, dude, I don't know what you're talking about. And I don't care. And the people that he was talking about who were running everything, I was like, I don't know what he's talking about, you know. And so I was like, yeah, I completely disagree with that, but I said, you have your right to your opinion, whatever. And I walked away. And so I guess he couldn't sound pseudo intellectual in front of the girl. So he tried to play tough with me. And then I'm just not that guy that's going to go along with that. So he tells me to come outside, and I did, but only because I didn't want him to destroy something out there that was ours, which is Anthony's, you know,
Truck.
yeah, it's a nice truck. And I'm like, yeah, your truck's right there. And we were thinking, he might punch it or hit it or kick it. So I went out there and he moved away from the truck and kept walking. So then at that point, I come back in. She's on the phone with a security who drive around a golf cart in that parking lot. He shows it. Hats off to him. Shout out to you. We'll call him F. But F did a good job. And he came in. He's, you know, these are the girl that worked there, the guy that we had the altercation with, and the security guard. They were all black people. And they were very, very professional. The girl that worked there was very professional. So was the security guard. And they didn't like take his side because he was black or anything, which I've seen happen. I've seen black people do that, and I've seen white people do that. And one thing I told this, there was a black bartender I talked to recently. I got a story from him. And it was a very eye-opening conversation for him because I told him, I said, you know, I explained to him how things are. I said, there's one group of people that are really benefiting from all of this. And I'm not one of those people like, oh, we're all the same, because no, we're not. That's a lie. That's bullshit. We're not all the same. We're all different. We have to learn to live with our differences. That's the thing. We don't all have to be the same. But like I told him, I said, you see who's getting thrown to the dogs, you know. They don't have a problem throwing a white guy or a black guy up there and letting them be torn to shreds as a, you know, like, we'll give you this person to be destroyed. But very seldom is it one of the real people that's actually the real top people.
Mm-hmm.
They're just sacrificing somebody. And I told that guy, I said, watch what happens. Because white people are in the opinion of black people are messing up the country, liberals and black people. That's a very easy thing to say. It's like the low hanging fruit. And then black people are like, oh, it's white people. They're doing this and that. And Hispanic people are kind of divided amongst who's doing what. No, it's a very specific group of people. Very specific. It's a group of people within a group of people who are doing this shit. Go look at Ukraine right now. And look at all of the Ukrainians that are being dying in that meat grinder. And you got to understand Russia's perspective. Like, they have to fight through this to get to the main enemy. And there's a part now of Ukraine that's depopulated. And go and look and see who's moving into that region. Former Khazaria. It's crazy, dude. It's nuts. And then these people are basically, you know, saying, oh, well, we were here thousands of years ago, or 1,000 years ago, whatever. Well, yeah, you were also the other place 1,000 to 2,000. So what is it?
Which is it?
What do you want? The world? So, you know, anyways, this guy, dude, I tell you right now, I saw his eyes shift.
You could see something like
Tony and Anthony were
wrong with
behind me when he came back in. So here's what happened. There's this one lady that works out there. She used to work out with us at the other one we used to be at. And I've seen her and been like, hi. I've never had more than a couple little short conversations with her, like, hey, are you using this machine? Or, oh, how you doing? Whatever. And so I recognized her. She recognized me, but I was doing my triceps. She was doing these cable pulls. And I just hear blah, 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 blah. And I was like, what the? I don't wear headphones in there. I don't do that. I look over and here he is. Talking crap, flexing in the mirror. Whoa, you know, and saying he's going to do all these horrible things to me. And I was like half asleep, tired, and my heart rate didn't even go up a little bit. which probably isn't a good thing. You know, you should probably shouldn't take people lightly ever, but I didn't give a shit. I'm like, I just like, he started saying, oh, you called the laws on me. You called the cops on me. And I was like, no, I didn't. And I was like, sir, I don't need to call the police for you. You don't have a gun, obviously, so there's nothing you can do. I told him that. I said, I didn't call the police on you. I don't give a damn shit about you. Because as soon as you come up and try to engage me and touch me, I mean, y'all know what's going to happen.
Nothing good. Nothing
good for him. And not for me either, because I don't want to go to jail. But he just kept on and kept on. And finally, the lady pulls her earphones out, and she's like, what in the hell? What is he talking about? Is he talking to you? I was like, yeah, he's over there threatening me. There's like 3 or 4 people at the gym now at this point. One of them was our waiter from from
the day before.
Yeah, what was it?
Serrano's.
He came up and was
really?
like,
yeah.
He came up and was like, hey, we talked to him, and he was like, what is he talking about? He said a couple things about the guy. You know, I'm not gonna repeat it. And then he walked off. He's like, this guy's, you know, crazy.
Insane.
You know, like he looks at that in the direction of the guy, and he's just like, you know, your brain, what's wrong with your mind, man? You know, just talking, you know. And I just, puro pendejo, you know, whatever, you know. Guys from Mexico. And he gave us a story too, by the way, to look up about a guy in Mexico. That guy did.
Mm-hmm.
When we were eating there a couple of days ago, but there was a guy that had a YouTube channel, podcast, whatever, from Mexico, and he helped this guy get this ring off of this thing, and it was cursed, and he died. So it's a crazy story, but anyway, yeah, that's a weird story, but we'll get into that one day. So he's gonna email me that. So we're kind of talking, and I'm just like, he's been taken by wolves away, you know, whatever. I don't care about this guy. The guy just keeps on. So the security guard comes back. He goes in there, very professional guy, and he tells him, he says, look, you got to leave. And then he just starts, all over this guy, all over me. He keeps saying that. So what the security guard told me in between this bout of hysteria that this dude was causing, after the first time, security guard F comes to me and tells me, he said, there was this big guy on steroids and threatened to beat him up and was challenging him and all this. And I'm like, what? Like, first of all, not on steroids. Second of all, I didn't challenge him. I didn't threaten him. I did nothing to this guy. Like, I just disagreed. He asked me if I agreed with him. He's like, right. I'm like, no. But I mean, you know, why are you leveling it at me and not Anthony? Because you wanted to make it racial. And I'm just like,
yeah.
So what happens if I say, yeah, you know, it's evil honkies that are messing everything up. I'm an evil honky because look at my skin, right? He didn't ask you that.
No.
He didn't ask the black girl that. He asked me because he wanted to dig at me. So don't open the box with me unless you're prepared for the jacking that's going to come out and jack your ass. How about that? And so I told him, I don't agree with that's bull fucking shit. Excuse my language, but that's what I said. I don't agree with your freaking opinion of the world at all. And he's like, really? So I'm crazy? I said, yeah, you look crazy. You act crazy.
Now you're getting it.
Bingo. You know, like, then he tried to follow me. I turned around and said, don't. What are we? This conversation is over, man. Shut up. Get away from me. He's kept on. It's over when I say it's over. It's over when I say it's over. I'm like slapping his chest and whatever. And I'm like, that doesn't even intimidate me a little bit. The loud and the throwing shit and acting incredible hulking. Like, dude, I worked in a black club for years, dude. Like, that's not even going to get my heart rate up. I worked in Hispanic clubs. I worked in black clubs. I worked with people getting shot, stabbed, beaten, whatever. The worst neighborhoods you could imagine. Like, who cares? Like, you don't intimidate me, and I don't give a shit. I just went and started doing pull downs and was doing my chest and just did my workout. I didn't have to go, I need a minute. I need to go get myself together. When he came back and started acting a fool again, I was just doing triceps, whatever. I don't give a shit what this dude's doing. And I don't need to, like, keep myself ready in case I got to throw a punch. No, I'm good. I'm ready. I'm fully capable of defending myself. So he wouldn't leave, and he was hassling the security guard. He was all up in that dude's face, and I felt bad for the guy because he was an older guy. And he's just pleading with that dude, just please, dude, we don't want any trouble. And it looks like it's going to get sideways. And so I went over there because that's what he wanted, was to try to get up in my face and do whatever it was he was going to try and do. And I felt like he was going to do something to the security guard. I mean, I don't know what you saw, Anthony, but that's
he was flipping on the security guard too, because he was getting mad because he was trying to plead his case to the guard, and the guard would just like, you just need to go.
yeah, the guard wouldn't listen. So, and then he starts screaming at him. So I just thought, you know what? I don't know what's happening, but it looks not good. So I walked over there and I said, look, I don't want any trouble with you, sir. I don't want. He runs over there and there's like a little wall right there, about this high. He goes and he tries to get up in my face. And when he's in my face screaming, yelling, nah, 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 he's not even blinking. It's like a solid 20, 30-second tirade. And I'm just looking at this guy and I just kept repeating. I said, I don't want trouble with you, sir. Like a robot. I don't want trouble with you, sir. I don't want trouble with you, sir. And I saw him with his right hand, like this hand was doing all that. So this hand was doing this. And then when he brought it back, when he brought it up, it was kind of talking. He was kind of doing that. And then he kind of went back down. And then I know how it works, folks. And I want you to know how it works. That is someone who's about to hit you. He was going to take that fist and hit me somewhere in here. I promise you that's what he was going to do. So when that hand went up, I put my hand up real quick and I smacked his hand. And it was very quick. And he was like, whoa, he backed up. At that point, I think he realized, like, okay, this guy's cognizant and he's not, I'm a fighter. I know exactly how I've been in this 1,000 times and I know that this is what's going to happen. And I was looking at him and I kind of smirked and laughed. And I was like, yeah, you're not going to hit me, bro. I said, that's not going to happen. You can try. You're welcome to do whatever you think you can do. And then it'll be my turn. I said, but let's not do this. And then right after that, that's when he walked out. But he just walked out and was gone after that. And I didn't see him again. When I looked in this man's eyes, I saw the devil, dude. Like, people say, I saw the devil. No. But here at PRT, I don't call it the devil. But the devil was in him. And the devil being like any number of entities of the shaitan. They were in this guy. His eyes changed, dude. I'm not going to say they slid up because I didn't see that. But his eyes were just like black pits, dude. You could see this unbridled anger and just a mental illness encapsulated in demonic possession. And I told him that. I said, you got demons, dude. His voice was weird. The way the octaves were changing.
Yeah.
It was, y'all saw it.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I'll just put the cam on you guys. You just said they.
I was going to say, like even before this guy started flipping out and getting mad, I was looking at him and like I could tell like he just has this. There's something wrong with him that the way he sounds, the way he looks, that he could just flip on a dime like that, and like I just kind of anticipated it, and I was like, man, this guy, something wrong with him, and if there's like any minor disagreement at all, he's gonna take it as an attack, as an insult, because it's like there was something bad in him that was like itching and clawing to come out. And like you want any excuse to just let it out. Like his eyes, his body language, even like the way I know it sounds weird, but when he was talking, I was like looking at his mouth, like the way he moved his mouth, and just everything about that guy told me like that this is not like a fully normal human being
normal
here.
Functioning.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when he tried following me into the gym, and she's like, "You don't have a membership," And here's the thing, Evan, and I'm going to talk about this for a minute until we get some people in here before we tell the story of this Incubus, because that's what I think it was. And I'll tell you something weird about that too, which is there's a lot of weird stuff. Me and Tony have both had similar dreams in the last few days, which is weird in and of itself. Dreaming about a brown car. I don't know what that is, but it was just weird. When I said I had this dream, Tony was like, I had this dream too. And I don't know what that is. It was weird, but we'll talk about this in a minute here. And I had another weird thing to tell you about the entity that we're about to talk about. Kind of wonder if it's not along the same lines, because this dude literally like just started shit. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it was just weird. Like, I was like, I don't care about your opinion. I'm in there to work out. Like, I'm telling you, whatever. The lady there, I don't even remember how we got on the conversation, but she was talking about not liking her job or whatever.
Yeah.
I can imagine with people like that. She's like, I used to work security. She goes, but at least there you have like authority, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You can say, hey, I have the authority to tell you to leave. There, she has to call somebody to go and deal with it, you know. And of course, she's asking this guy, he's not going to leave. Like, why would he? And he just, I felt like he targeted us, or me in particular.
Yeah.
And I was just like, dude, just be quiet, dude. I don't care. He started talking about he was a gangster and all this shit. And I'm like, okay, dude. Yeah. Yeah. You're a gangster at your mama's house, whatever, dude. Ain't nobody scared of you, dude.
Well, if you notice it, like the whole time, I think he was trying to like satiate these like kind of base reptilian brain desires too. Because at first he like his whole goal, his whole goal the whole time was to hit on that girl,
Yeah.
right? To satisfy like this lust. And then once he started trying to pontificate his worldview to you and like trying to sound smart, that was like pride. But then once you didn't accept it and disagreed and just made him look stupid in front of this girl that he's trying to get with to satiate his lust, then he turns to anger, like the very reptilian brain, you know, like that's all he expressed was like this base emotion or whatever. Like it was weird. Nothing higher than that, just pride,
And you
lust,
could look
anger.
at him in the eye and see just an absolute hatred, anger, crazy, pissed off at the world. And I'm going to take it out on you because you're just in the wrong place at the wrong time. And
Yeah.
Yeah, he just reeked of like instability.
yeah, I mean, so he walked off, he left, whatever. And I was just like, here, you know, but the thing is, here in Austin, because that's here in Austin, you know, and we don't usually work out at that gym. I've only been there a couple times, and it's because, you know, it's in Austin. I usually go to Cedar Park, but you know, Tony was working in this, you know, further south, so he came up there to meet us, and he missed the first part of it, but he caught the second part when, you know, I had to go over there and basically, you know. But the point of this is that this is what happens. Like, I've seen a lot of this. I've seen an uptick in this. Like, I walked into a place about a month ago, and there was a guy in there. It was at a Jersey Mike's. I'll just be honest. We had ordered the sandwiches. I went in there to pick them up. It was back in December. It's already like what, mid-February? It was back in December, and I walk in there, and this guy is on the phone. I felt so bad for this kid because he was on the phone. Anthony had just gone in and used the restroom. So I'm sitting there waiting, and dude, I could hear this guy screaming through the phone. And this dude that was on the phone was threatening that guy's life. Like, not, I could hear what he was, like, every word. It was so loud. And the guy was like, and he's like, you mother effer, I'll come down there. I'll deal with you. I'm going to do this. I'm going to F all y'all up. And I'm just sitting there like, I'm standing there going like, what the freaking, and the kid said, okay, sir. Yeah, not a kid, but to me, he's probably in his mid to late 20s. That's a kid to me, twice his age. And he hangs up the phone. I said, damn, you handled that very well. He just kind of goes like, he looked frazzled. And I'll never forget, this was like middle of December. And he tells me, he's like, yeah, it's just been really hectic. He goes, yesterday, you know, at the place next door, there's like a salon next door. A woman, this is what the guy told me. A guy walked into that salon, beat this Asian woman half to death, and drug her out by her hair, and then threw her in the car. And then the police went and had to go looking for the guy. And he basically had told everybody that he was fixing to unalive this hoe. This is not, and this was not her boyfriend. This was just some guy that dated him twice. This is what the dude was telling me. He says, dude, the world, what is wrong with these people? Then I get a story from somebody about 6 months ago, back in August, it was toward the end of the summer, however long ago that was. And she's telling me a story about, like, she thinks that someone was stalking her, right? So her and her stepdaughter go into Panda Express down in Houston. And they are in San Antonio, my bad. And they witness one employee just freaking out and just starts beating up the other employee. He's like holding a pan, like a big metal bowl. And the other employee was trying to grab it, and he said, pulls it away like that and says, I already told you. And then the next thing you know, he's throwing right hands to the face of the other kid. And this woman is standing there in shock, and she's like, I think I'm running into this, because there's this thing that's stalking us and whatever. And I told her, I said, maybe, but it could just be the state of affairs of this world. Like, holy shit, man. She said, my 8-year-old daughter is just standing there in shock because it was brutal. Like, the guy hit the dude like 1, 2, the guy was falling, and he hit him again. They're about the same size. 2 Hispanic kids, description she gave me, and one of them just snapped and just started beating the other one, and then hitting him with the bowl until a couple of the workers, and she said the 2 workers, like the cooks, they were just in shock. She said they obviously were Mexican nationals, like they were from Mexico. Those 2 were, but these 2 kids, she said they looked like they were San Antonian natives, like, in other words, like people from here.
Yeah. They
probably, maybe just straight out of high school. And those 2 cooks were kind of stunned, and then they ran over and they stopped him. And the dude that was throwing the punches was crying. Just this mental instability. And she tells me this, and I'm sitting there going like, what in the F? What in the hell is going on? And then I saw at the P. Terry's, we were in the drive-through, and the dude leans halfway out the drive-through, and he's trying to fight the guy in the car, and they're going back and forth, and food goes everywhere. And I'm just like, I didn't have the patience for this shit. I just backed up because there was nobody behind me, and I just drove away. I'm like, I don't know what that is, and I don't care. I just, I'm done. What is wrong with these people? Everybody's just doing, and the thing at Panda Express, I don't know what that was. It obviously wasn't racially motivated. They were both Latino, both about the same age. Could have been jealousy. I don't know what the hell happened. We don't know the circumstances, because she just grabbed her child and walked out. Because you don't know what's next. Whether this guy's mad, he goes out to the car, grabs something, comes back, who knows? Like, oh my God, dude. Yeah. This is freaking nuts, man. It is freaking nuts. And you see it on Facebook.
Yeah, every day.
The threatening. They threaten to kill each other on Facebook like every day. Are these people going to jail? Like, because when you threaten to kill someone on there should be, what are the parameters here?
Yeah.
Because I saw somebody the other day talking a bunch of crap on a friend of mine's page. This guy lives up in North Texas. And it got to where the guy was like, well, I know where you live. I know where you work. You know what? I'll come up there. I'll deal with you. That's a threat. You're basically saying on the internet that you're going to come up to his place of business and do something to him. And the way it sounded was like including and up to unaliving that person. And we deal with this all the time. We had 3 domestics in one night on last Sunday. 3 domestics on 3 different properties. And get this, I don't know if this has ever happened, but they were all at the same time within the same hour. Am I lying?
Mm-mm.
And it was all a dude beating up a woman. Every one of them was. And it was just a woman getting drugged down the hallway. Another said that woman was getting shoved around. And another one was a guy who tackled a girl into a swimming pool. But in that case, they said it looked like she was running around drunk or high or something, and he tried to get her under control, and then the fight ensued in the pool. And then he was kind of picking her up and throwing her into the water. I don't know. It was weird. And I was just like, is this, like, what is going on? Did they hit us with some kind of ray that makes everybody just hyper violent?
Spray something in the air.
Because I know in Brazil it's toxoplasmosis
Oh yeah.
from cats,
Stray cats everywhere.
which makes women super promiscuous and men super aggressive.
In the thing's called The Kingsman. Samuel L. Jackson's was the villain in that movie, and his whole plan was that he was gonna make like an app that would turn people violent. And so it's funny that was the whole plot of that movie. And
Never
now
saw it.
the world is just becoming more and more bloodthirsty.
He don't need no app now.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm telling you, the Shaitan are working overtime on us, folks. Watch the new show, right? True Crime Paranormal. Part 2 with the Ed Gein thing comes out on Saturday at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Put the link to True Crime Paranormal. And then the week after this, next week, for the next 3 weeks, we're going to talk about Chris Watts. Man, you want to talk about a psychopath. This dude unalived his whole family, and it was so sad. It was very, very sad. So the guy's sitting up there in prison, and I mean, we get real deep into it too. The demonic, whatever this could be going on with them, and who they are and what they are, the archons that were manipulating this situation. Because there's archons, demons for all of this. But that dude has his own sick little fan club. This guy murdered his wife and his two little daughters and his unborn son. And over what? A 6-week affair with some Kissinger, whatever her name is. Holy crap, dude. I'm blown away. Like I was, when I had to do the research for this, I was looking more into the paranormal, the demonic, whatever. The girls were doing more, the factual, whatever, dealing with the step by step, and it was rough. And I just, and I'm really tired today, folks, because I recorded that.
Yeah.
And it was a 3-hour recording marathon, and then I had to go do some work, and then I had to. By that time, I went to the gym, and then had to deal with, whatever this guy was. And then I go home, and my wife's got an appointment. So I had to stay up. And then I went to sleep by 3 o'clock in the afternoon because I was out and about. So I got to run my errands. So I only slept from 3 to 7. And so 4 hours. But I usually get 5. And I'm going to tell you the truth. If I get less than 5, it's rough. I can make it, but it's not as smooth. I need at least 5 hours. I usually sleep 5 hours a day. Sometimes I can work on 4, but it's usually 5. 5 is kind of like, for whatever reason, my body is just, that's what it needs. 5 hours. So anyways, dealing with all of that, that's the crazy that I've had to deal with. And so here's what happened. We're talking about these people from San Antonio. This is the Jimenez family. We talked about them on Sunday. They moved into that house. This has kind of been an ongoing thing because it all centered around the house in Kansas City. But it's really not just the house. There was something vampiric in that house. But prior to them going to there, they lived in San Antonio. Yes, Evan, it is. It's Santa Clara, 1987. So unbelievable, dude, right? Or I'm sorry, Santa Carla, not a real place. Santa Clara would be a real place. That's a fictional from Lost Boys. This is Sutherland's character, and it says at the bottom there, Lost Boys. But thank you for noticing. But what ends up happening, I had a dream about this thing. And what's weird is it was just shortly while I had that little 4-hour nap. I call it a nap. I don't even think it was well past 3 o'clock. I don't know. At 3:09, last time I looked at my phone. So probably add another 20, 30 minutes. I probably slept 3.5 hours. With all this activity I had to deal with, and still have not rested from my workout. And so in the last 2 days, I did upper body and then legs the day before. So I'm really tired. Probably had 8 hours of sleep in the last 48 hours, if that. I don't even think I got that. Maybe 7. So excuse me if I'm a little bit off. I'm a little bit tired. But this situation, I had a dream, and there was this. I mean, a lot of times when you have a dream and you're in that state of mind, like you'll have a dream about something, somebody will talk to you in another language, but you'll understand it.
Yeah.
Like
I've had that happen.
it's not like gibberish. You know, it's not English, but in that other on the astral plane, you can understand it,
Mhm.
even though it's another language. Because language, I don't want to say it doesn't exist, but it's not. It's like I haven't encountered where I can't. There's only been a couple times when I can't, and that's when we're talking backwards. And that's a weird thing. I
Yeah.
don't want to get into all that.
The spoken word is actually kind of a primitive form of communication.
Mm-hmm. But they'll talk backwards, and it's like a code, and you have to decipher it, whatever. But this dude was talking in some ancient language that I doesn't sound like anything I've ever heard, which is really hard to believe. So I don't know. I couldn't even relate it to anything. It was just so weird. The closest I could come up with would be like a Hebrew mixed with Greek, but even that wouldn't. That's not correct. I don't. That's the closest I could come up with. Like maybe that's what. But I've never heard this before. So the cadence of it, maybe, kind of like that. But I can't tell you. But this entity was sitting on a big rock, and he was just in this big robe and this, and he was talking to me, and he wasn't being aggressive. He wasn't being mean or like attacking me. And I was just sitting on a smaller rock listening to him talk. And it was like he was pleading his case, I don't know this dude. He's a giant. Like he's humongous. And I was intimidated by him and his size. But I wasn't judging him, and I don't know. It wasn't Aramaic either. I've heard that, but what's that supposed to sound like? It's nothing like that. I don't know what this was. It wasn't Sumerian of any kind. But anyway, I get done talking to the guy, and I just kind of like hit my legs, like, well, I gotta go. And so I stand up, and he just kind of shook his head, and then I walked off, and I got into a car with Tony. Tony was in there, and it was weird. Tony was like eating donuts or something and drinking coffee or something, and offered it to me, and I was like, no, I'm good. And then we just took off driving in this old brown like Royale looking old car, like I was like, what is this? But yes, it was a weird dream. I don't know what that was, but here we are talking about this entity that's a Incubus giant. The descriptions match, kind of, from the dream. And I don't know what, but it may not be the same. I mean, obviously it may not be the same entity, because this entity that they're describing was malevolent 100%. There was no like gray area, like, well, he might have been good or bad. Shit, no, dude. This thing was vile, whatever it was. And there are different stories about how this came about, where this entity came from, and why it existed. I don't, urban legends, you know what I mean? To me, that's what it was. They started telling me about that. They're like, yeah, there were some workers working. I couldn't find any evidence of this. And so I just was like, well, I mean, maybe because just because you don't find something doesn't mean maybe you didn't find you look in the right place. I didn't try real hard, but I did try. And, so there's that. Hang on one second, and we're going to get started here. We got over 300 people. Hang on. All right. So, thank you. So I don't know what this entity was that I saw, but what, and we were talking about these people, Eddie and Andrea, who moved to Kansas City. it wasn't random, like I said. It wasn't like they were just, oh, let's just up and move to Kansas City for no reason. No, Eddie worked as a chef in a restaurant, and the house that they were living in became haunted. Now, that's a weird thing. It's not like, you're living in a haunted house. It's haunted.
Mm-hmm.
And it maybe was haunted worse, later or something. But for the most part, it was probably haunted when you moved in. That's what you would expect, right?
Yeah.
Like typically. Like the Kansas City house, when they moved into that house, and we already discussed about what happened to Beatrice and Barbara and Michael. Well, mostly Beatrice and then Barbara and Michael to a lesser degree, and their dad, James. So there was already a bunch of stuff that happened that was going on in that house. So when the Jimenez family rented it, because Andrea, her brother, was living in Kansas City and working there for this trucking company, and he actually was friends with Steve, who was the husband of Beatrice, who died while he was living in that house. When they introduced me to these people, I was not real hopeful that I would get a whole bunch out of them, because they just said, look, they lived in San Antonio, and the house that they lived in, Barbara was kind of talking about, man, it was just bad luck. They lived in a haunted house down in San Antonio, and then they moved to Kansas City. So when I talked to them about their experiences in the Kansas City house, they were like, yeah, it was horrible. It was, there was awfulness there, and we left after 3 months. But there was some people, the Balls, that lived there before, and they moved out in 2 months. So they at least outlasted them. And then after all this happens, Beatrice's husband, Steve, who we've already kind of figured out is an idiot. Yeah. I mean, he's deceased. I don't want to speak ill of the dead, but I'm one of those people that, like, just because you die doesn't mean you're gone. It just means you don't have a body anymore, but you're still an asshole, and you still did what you did. Right? So what you did in life is going to be who you are in death. When these people go on these ghost things, yes, sometimes they will encounter entities that are just masquerading as spirits of the deceased. But in my personal opinion, a lot of people go, those are the same people who are like, I worship the baby Jesus. I like him. I like that version better.
Baby Jesus don't tell you nothing you don't want to hear.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't do all that red talking on the New Testament. I don't like that one either, because I don't like good. I can relate to God. He's mad all the time and angry in the Old Testament. I like that. I like that stuff.
Need that blood and violence.
That's those kind of people, right? So believe what you want. I also believe in reincarnation, but I am a staunch believer in Christ. And people are like, that ain't in the Bible either. Bible's just big. Bible's like this big, but it's been cut down by your favorite people that you follow, and the Masons and their Jesuits and their constituents. Basically, a pack of shitheads changed the Bible, and that's what you're reading. You're not reading the real Bible. You're reading, like, if you took Gibbon's the Rise and Fall of the Roman Empire, which took me like 2 years to read all of those because I had other things to do. But there's a little edited version. It's about that big. Put it in your pocket. You're like, oh, that's the Cliff Notes of the Cliff Notes. Because you can't take volumes of books that are this big and then turn it into, like, it took Gibbons years to write those. You could read The Rise and Fall of Rome, the edited version, in like 2 hours. Because I did. I wrote it on a plane, on a flight, and I was like, I got to Vegas, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And it was a beat-up paperback, so I just threw it in the trash. And I was like, let me go find the volumes now and actually read the whole thing. Because I had started it in high school. I read 2 of them. Like, there's a lot of it. There's a lot of volumes, right? So whenever you take these, situations here, like, okay, the Bible will tell you a little bit, but it's up to you to actually go and do the research, okay? So I have the reasons why I believe the way I believe, and I'm not going to push on you and make you believe whatever. Be dumb. I don't care. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't affect me if you don't believe how I believe, right? So me personally, that's what I believe in. I do believe in that, but I don't believe it. I know it. That's me. I'm very positive that's what it is. But also, I believe that there are spirits of the deceased because I believe purgatory is a real. It's not a place, it's a state of being. It can be a place, but it's really a state of existence. And that state of existence is very, it would be very hard. It would suck to be stuck there like that. Now, if I was an evil person, though, and you know you did evil and you know you're probably facing a very bad judgment, like, going to hell, I would probably not be in a hurry. It's kind of like you're in the hallway waiting to go see the principal, and the principal's going to throw the book at you on this one. The judge is going to get you. You're not, there's no, so what do? You just kind of meander around. I mean, it really sucks, but that's what these people are doing. And I believe that you can get lost because the system, I don't believe it's flawless because there is a lot between us and the true living God, which is why Jesus came down. Because if everything was perfect and flawless, Jesus wouldn't have had to come down, right? Right? So God, the true living God, his Father, the pre-existent one, sent him down here because the demiurge or Satan, the one that is in control of this matrix, this simulation that he built, this is not the real reality. This is his reality. And so, yeah, these people are like, yeah, we're God's people. You are. You're the God of this world's people. Yeah, you're God's people. You're the synagogue of the Shaitan. That's what you are. And Jesus calls them out on it over and over again. I don't know where this got mixed up. Oh, wait, I do know where it got mixed up. Because in the 1890s, there was a push to change things by the Rothschilds, and it worked. And then in the 1920s, 30s, and especially after World War II, here's another thing, too. If the good guys won all these wars, wouldn't the world be, we're all eating ice cream and the world is great? Wouldn't the world be a great place?
It'd be paradise.
But it's not paradise, is it? It's a nightmare. It's a freaking nightmare. So what makes you think that the good guys won? These are questions that people don't like to ask. They want to believe that we were always the good guys and that we fought the good fight. But then when you go back and you look at the peace proposals given to Churchill over and over again, and he rejected them over and over again, then you go, wait a minute, what the hell? I thought Churchill was a good guy. He was not a good guy. I thought Franklin Dickhead Roosevelt was a good. No, he was not a good guy. Those two are possibly two of the worst people of the 20th century. I mean, now you could argue some other people are pretty bad, but those two are actually way worse than the little Italian painter guy. The only probably superseded by Mao Zedong and Stalin. Everybody that the Germans, Italians, Japanese, Finnish, Hungarian, Romanian, most of Spain, half of France, and who else? They're allies, whatever.
All the Balkan countries.
All the Balkan, Croatia. There was another one that was very prominent. Hungary, Romania, Latvia. There were many countries that fought. Mm-hmm. Those are the countries that were in the right. I'm not saying that they all were good guys, but I'm telling you, a lot of the bullshit that they peddle in the media about who did what, I know the truth because I've read it. I've studied it. And I'm 50 years old, and I came to these conclusions 20 years ago, really solidified it for me because I had a roommate who was Jewish, and he taught me a lot. Going to synagogue with him taught me a lot about the real reality because those people there will actually tell you what they're doing if they think that you're with them. The Muslims will do it too. I'm telling you, man. So will the communists. You can infiltrate these people. It's not like it's that hard. And you know what? It's because they know that nobody's going to believe you. Masons, same thing. No one's going to believe you because you tell them, hey, man, these groups are trying to subvert and take over and then annihilate, civilization. People are like, okay. It'd be $14 what the computer said. Okay.
Pretty much.
That's it. Welcome to Costco. I love you. Welcome to Walmart. I love you. This is the stupor that people are in. They're just walking around, and people are in this day and age. They're just like ripping people off left and right. Just everybody's out to make a buck, and they're frauding, lying, grifting, just stealing,
Just trying to get theirs.
trying to get theirs, man.
The piece of the pie.
Yeah, Hot Rock says Churchill was a legend, period. Britain's greatest. He was Britain's worst. I mean, it could be argued that maybe Paul McCartney was worse than him when it comes to like what comes out of Britain. But Churchill was definitely the excrement that came out of
He
Britain.
really wanted to make a name for himself after he humiliated himself at Gallipoli. I mean, it's a big part of it. Honestly, like
it was all a personal thing.
Yeah, he didn't want peace. He wanted to redeem himself as a military commander because he was humiliated at Gallipoli and wanted to.
A bunch of people died because of him.
Yeah. And so because of his ego and refusal to make peace, millions more had to die in World War II. So
yeah,
that's that.
And what's funny is when you look at everything that happened step by step, they're like, oh, the Sudetenland, they gave it to Hitler or whatever. That's because it was 90% German. And it belonged to Germany post World War One. But even if you look at the map, it's like the Czechoslovakia taking a bite out of Germany. It looked weird. That was the case with Poland when they tried to make peace. This is just real quick, and we'll get past it. There was a letter that was written to. Well, it happened over and over again. Germany, through many different channels, through Italy, through Spain, all these different countries tried to reason with Britain. After Dunkirk, if dumbass Hitler would have done like just bombed the shit out of them, the fog that was laying heavy over England, and if the Luftwaffe would have bombed them into oblivion, it would have been over because their flak guns wouldn't even be able to see past the low-hanging clouds. It was like the clouds were there just to destroy England. And Hitler was like, no. We can work with them. They'll come to their senses and we'll all fight the communists together. No, dumbass. Because he's a dumbass. He was a horrible military guy. He was a political motivator, but a stupid military leader. Dumbass. Hot Rock says Churchill's bus is on Trump's desk. Yeah, that's not a ringing endorsement for me right now.
Yeah, and the fact that we're also not speaking German, I mean, like that's as opposed to what? Because now we're speaking Spanish, we're speaking Arabic, we're speaking Hindi, Telugu, Tamil, and soon enough, Mandarin Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, we're barely speaking English anymore, so it's not really an argument right there.
No.
It never was.
So I'm going to do a whole thing about it on Random Files, and I'm going to talk to you about what went on and why it went on, and it's just going to be piece by piece by piece. So tune into the Random Files if you give a shit about history and why history has led us to where we are now, and you will maybe understand. And these people who threaten me and say all this dumb shit, you're going to do this and you're going to do that because of my views. No, you're not. Because I'll fuck you up. That's why. I'm going to say it right now. No, you're not. You're not going to do shit. Shut up. You will not do shit. You think I'm just some guy sitting here waiting to be your victim? You're out of your fucking mind. So stop talking shit like you're going to do something. You got pew-pews. Who gives a shit? Who doesn't? I'm telling you the truth. I'm sitting here telling you the absolute truth. If you don't want to believe it, don't believe it. If you want to believe these lunatics who think that history is the way that they were taught by their Rockefeller school books, then you go ahead and believe that shit. But anyways, back to the point. Ghosts exist. Spirits of the deceased absolutely exist. Demons do masquerade as spirits of the deceased. But not every time because Jesus tells us to test the spirits, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Test the spirits. And I apologize. I just said something about, no, you're not. I'm going to F you up. I stand by that. I shouldn't cuss, though. I'm trying not to. But I get really tired of people and their bull crap. Stop talking big crap. Those are the people that go to the Pluckers Wings bar and and stuff their face with nachos and wings while two guys are in a cage fighting and they're talking about what they would have done, or if I was in that situation, I would have done this. No, you wouldn't. No, you would. You absolutely would not do that because you don't know what the hell you're talking about and you really don't know how to fight. So stop talking shit because I don't even know what I would have done. Right? And I've been coaching this shit for over 15 years. So don't tell me what you would have done. You're full of shit. Shut up. Dumbasses. And you don't know, you don't have enough knowledge to fill a thimble, but you want to comment and talk because you have your little fan club or cheering club. Guess what? Chris Watts had a fan club too. So did Jeffrey Dahmer. So did John Wayne freaking Gacy and Ted Bundy. Those people are freaking, all burning in hell, hopefully, except for Chris. He'll eventually get there. And we'll talk about his little shit ass coming up after this episode of with Ed Gein on TCP, True Crime Paranormal. And we got a whole bunch of stuff lined up, and I'm going to show you something. Watch it. Check it out. If you don't like me, then pretend like somebody else is talking, like Gary Busey or Darth Vader. I don't care. I find your lack of ignorance disturbing. But if you want to learn something and you want to hear how the real reality works, then we'll continue. Here's what's going on. These are spirits of the deceased. A lot of times they're just stuck there because in the East, in the Far East, which people in the West pretend like doesn't exist unless they want to go to a buffet. They're like, oh yeah, there's some people who talk like them ching chong changs, and yeah, I know they got some kind of something going on over there. You don't know what the hell. You don't know anything about them. You will. I promise you will. Because they make up they're the second. The Indians have now passed them. Mm-hmm. They're the second largest population on the planet. A quarter of the planet is Chinese. You might want to figure out how to learn what they're saying. I had one of them say something really smart ass the other day to me, and I understood it. And then he came out, was very apologetic to me. And you know what he told me? He goes, oh, fuck her, she fired. I'm like, what's his exact words? I'm like, I don't give a damn. I don't care. I just don't like being insulted. Say it in English because I understand. And then we kind of hit it off, me and him, because most people don't understand them. They don't understand us, and they don't care. We're just a dollar sign to them. And they're just some food to you, not eating unless you're that Gein or whatever. I mean, some of these people were talking about earlier, maybe Dahmer, maybe, but they're just there to give you fried rice. You don't give a shit about them, but you will. I promise you will. And if you don't know Indian culture, you will learn, and you will understand that there are different types of Chinese and different types of people from India. And these are the people that don't know jack shit about the different provinces of any of these places. But they will sit here and argue with me about the merits of us fighting the Germans and Japanese during World War II because no. Bullshit. Enough. Enough of the bullshit. Enough of the lies. I'm sorry that your grandpappy, your boomer grandpappy, believes that he liberated camps, but probably didn't. My grandfather was very adamant about that. He was in Patton's army. He said, that's bullshit. And he would call people out at the VFW. Where was this at? Where was it? In the middle of a game of dominoes, too. My grandfather couldn't stand it when people would do that because they're military, but that's really stolen valor. Because they'd be like, yeah, I was with Patton's army. And he's like, really? Where? He would call them out every time. Every single time one of these people started talking about these camps, he would call them out and go, where was this at? Because there was only one. They're all POW camps and work camps. And these people went along with the lie, like the people that supposedly landed on the moon. Great for you. Yeah. Did they look happy, though?
No,
did Neil Armstrong or Buzz Aldrin look happy?
They look traumatized.
They looked like they were angry because they probably got yelled at by, what's his name? Stanley Kubrick when he was directing it. Bunch of bullshit, dude. And there's people that are so stupid, you believe that. And I bet you believe that your favorite whatever was not on Epstein's Island, too. Somebody today told me that. I'm not going to get into the names and start talking because this person's they're brainwashed. They weren't on Epstein's Island. Yes, they were. multiple times. Go one time because you maybe don't know what the hell's going on. You ever seen that movie Balls of Fury? So you're kind of like, you don't know what the freaking hell is going on, You need fast hands to beat off evil.
Yeah.
The next day, George Lopez, who's probably at Epstein's Island too, I don't know. But he comes out and he's like, what's up with these courtesans of pleasure, man? It's a bunch of dudes.
Yeah.
But if you're like all happy about it and you're planning a second trip to go be with the courtesans of pleasure and Balls of Fury, then maybe you're gay. Because that's the point I'm trying to make. Like, these people do this shit, and then you're just like, what in the hell? Because yes, they do. And were they cannibals? Yes, they were. Are they vampires? Yes, they are. Is Lady Gaga one of them? Probably. And the Kabbalistic Jewish lady that was serving them up? Yeah, they all go to her. She's their head witch. Dude, I'm telling you, man, stop living in the fake reality. Join us in the real reality. Stop being in the Matrix, dude. Give it up, man. And stop believing every little thing that your preacher tells you, because they're full of shit. They're going along with it because they want that 501c. So as long as they toe the party line and they go along with whatever, and then they have a responsibility now to tell you that a certain country is the greatest country in the world, and that we should give them $14 trillion and be in debt so that they can take over the world. Go F yourself. That's not the case. Oh, because Islam is the greatest threat ever. It's one of them. I'm not going to lie. Pretty bad. But so is communism. Twin pillars of evil. And capitalism. Oh, it's great, right? Because it's not either. There are alternatives, but you don't want to hear about that. Trust me. You just want to live in your reality. So the reality is that there are ghosts and there are demons pretending to be ghosts, and it gets confusing. But it says in the Bible that you want to quote all the time, you are supposed to test the spirits. Now, I'm not saying the Bible is wrong. I'm saying it's incomplete. I'm saying that it is partial. We need that and then more. It's not everything is found there. I never understood how these preachers could just recycle. You go through an entire year. I learned this as a kid. And then the next year, they just wash, rinse, and repeat, and everything is just repeated. And I knew this preacher who told me, he says, I did that for 20 years. He told me to be a preacher. He's like, being a preacher is easy. I just tell the same sermons every year going over and then add in current events. Like, he literally said that.
Mm-hmm.
Made tons of money, too, and had a nice house. And I'm like, this is not a money-making venture for me, dude. I wanted a spiritual journey. Instead, I get like the 501c, and this is what you got to do, and just make everybody feel good. And then certain people make them feel bad. And then that's it. You're a preacher. And then you die and you go to hell, because that's where you belong. Or you end up in purgatory, which like Troy Aikman said during the football game, you don't want it left up to the refs, whether or not that's a catch or not.
Yeah.
Catch the ball. Don't drop it. Don't let the refs make a decision about the future of your game. That's very, very, very good. And now I'll get off my freaking soapbox and I'll tell you, this being was like a giant. And the reason that they said it was a giant was because they lived in a 2-story house in San Antonio, the Jimenez family. And this thing was looking in the window at their daughter. And the head was as big as her whole body. And she went and told their mom and dad, I just saw a giant. Because when she looked down, she could see it all the way up to the top floor. The head did not touch the ceiling. It was just the thing was looking inside. So at where that point was, where she was at, it was like 15 feet, something like that. So you're talking about anywhere from 13 to 15 foot giant. This is what it was. She was freaked the heck out, dude. She's a little kid, so it was looking up into the window. At different times, this being would look like different things, but they're convinced that it was the same being. There were times when this thing looked like a full-on giant, and one of their neighbors was one of the first people to see it, because they all got together and started talking. The neighbor down the street actually said, her name was Carmelita. She said that this thing was her and her son, her 6-year-old son, were turning the corner. This was years ago. It was like back in the late 90s when she first saw it. And the headlights hit something dark, but it was so dark that it absorbed the light. Hold on.
Yeah.
Thanks. So it absorbed the light.
Oh.
It was so dark. She said it was like worse than Vanta Black. It was worse than that. She said it was so dark I couldn't tell what it was. She's like, but it was tall. And then when I saw the movement, it looked like a man, a tall humanoid man. I could see arms and like what it looked like a cloak or a robe. She said it scared the hell out of me. She said this is what was told to Andrea. Andrea is the one that told this story. Eddie was the one that related to me. I talked to her a little bit. She was more in the background, but here's what happened. She reminded him of a thing that happened to them. They had a community pool where they would go to. It was an older neighborhood, but at one time it was a nice subdivision. You know, when it was first built, like in the 80s, you could tell it was like a nice area. And then it gradually San Antonio just kept growing. Got bigger, 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 until their neighborhood was firmly in the city and no longer in the suburbs. They bought the house back in 1999. So they had been there for quite a while. So when they decided to move to Kansas City, it was going on 20 years. I think it was 20 years, not quite. But they said that, we lived in this, or maybe they said the house was 20, I don't know. Anyways, doesn't matter. But they said that when they first saw this thing, they were at the pool. And there's this like metal gate or whatever around it back in the late 90s when they first moved in. His brother and his cousin, they lived a couple streets over. They had rented a house together. And he said all he did was argue about everything because his brother's very conservative and his cousin's very liberal. And back then they were just always butting heads. And he said, so it wasn't really pleasant to visit one or the other because they were always fighting. And it only lasted about 6 months of them living together. And then he moved out and she had to get another roommate because technically it was her house. And then he ended up moving another neighborhood over. But they would go there basically in the mid 90s and take, to go swimming and stuff like that. And he said, me and my wife were there. We were swimming. It was before we were married and had kids. And he said that we took our niece and nephew with us. They were little babies, little bitty. We were babysitting them. Kind of like preparing to be parents. She's like, it helped us, learn to be parents. We were, the younger sibling. This is my husband was the youngest, right? And she said that before his brother moved to Kansas City, he was always going from job to job, was kind of just roaming, didn't really whatever. And he met Steve from this job that they had. And he said, why don't you move to Kansas City? And he did. And then he got them to move to Kansas City. And that's what ended up happening. But it was to get away from this situation. But she said, you remember, we thought we saw this weird shape move. And it was getting dark and it was in the summer. She's like, and I remember it was the weekend before Labor Day. She's like, I remember that. She's like, and we were in the pool and I saw this thing sitting on some rocks. And she's like, and I thought, I kept looking over because it was just black. And I thought, I don't remember like a black, because it was real dark past the light. There's like the light. Mm-hmm. And you try to look past the light, everything looks real dark, Yeah. And she said, I don't remember there being something like a pillar or something there. She goes, but then I saw it move. I saw it stand up. She goes, I look again and it's gone. Like whatever it was, it faded off into the woods. She's like, so I told Eddie, I was like, there was something there. He had been like playing with the kids and whatever. And at that point he was playing with the dog and the kids were playing with the dog. And he was waiting because they wanted to go to the movies, right? They were going to catch a late night movie. It was the weekend and they were waiting for, his family to come and pick up their children. It would have been his sister's kids. And he was just like, yeah, whatever. And he just kind of brushed it off, right? A couple years later, when they decided that they were going to move to that area, they were looking around the neighborhood for houses. They talked to a woman, and they remember this woman, and she used to live in that neighborhood, and her name was Meredith. And Meredith told them, she was like, this is what I'm talking about. There are good people. Because this woman could have sold that house to them and just made her commission and then been done with it. But instead, she was honest, and she was like, she just told them, she goes, there's some really great houses a couple neighborhoods over. And they were like, no, we really like this neighborhood. And she goes, is there a reason? And they're like, why is this woman, pushing us, And this is what happened. The world, the universe, God, Christ, whatever, tells you things. Maybe not in that order, but God gets the word to you, right? Has angels that will tell you things, hey, through people. And he'll reveal things to you. If you're honest with God and yourself, he'll be honest with you. But that's up to you. That's your journey. Everybody's journey is different. My journey is not your journey. So this is what I believe happened. It's like God told them, hey, she told them, she goes, yeah, I used to live in this neighborhood. She's like, and she's like, and I still have the house here in this neighborhood. I'm just having a hard time selling it. And they were like, well, we'd like to look at it. And she's like, nah, no, you wouldn't. And they were like, what's wrong with this woman? She's like I said, she goes, if I were you, I personally wouldn't want to live right over in this area. She's like, and in fact, I'm going to be real honest. I don't even like coming to prep, because the real estate agents have told me some crazy stories. And you know that we have several friends that are. They've told us some wild stuff. One of our friends is a real estate agent. She walked into a house and she heard a full-on argument going on. She searched the whole house. There's nobody there. Every hair is standing up on her body. And she was freaked the hell out. Another one told us how something touched her butt, groped her basically in one of these houses in a nice area where there was new build. But what was there before? Another one of our friends told us that he was so afraid because he saw something look out the window that was a shadow with red eyes. He didn't even go in the house and then canceled the showing. These are people that we know in our daily life, in our everyday life. Now, we're going to know these stories because they're going to tell you because, hey, when something weird happens, go tell Wolf, right? Or Anthony, right? So we get these crazy stories. But what happened? Meredith told them, and this is weird, right? She says, look, I'm just going to be real honest with you. She goes, my house, I consider it to be a haunted house. And I'm struggling with the payments to not let it get foreclosed on. But I also don't want someone's nightmare, my nightmare, to become theirs. And they're like, so Eddie had not really paid attention at this point. Andrea was intrigued. She was like, really? And then Eddie was like, but he was intrigued too. And so he didn't fight his wife when she was like there in the garage. And he's like, well, go ahead and tell us, She's like, it is a long story. She's like, but there's something in this neighborhood. She's like, and suffice it to say, she's like, I moved out. She's like, and it caused me and my husband to get a divorce. Because whatever it is, it causes really bad marital strife. She's like, if it was just, and he's like, just a ghost? She's like, it's not just a ghost. If it was a ghost, she's like, I could deal with that. She goes, I grew up in their shirts. That's suburb North San Antonio. She goes, I grew up shirts in a haunted house. Out the outskirts of shirts, a little farm. And she says, and my grandparents' house was haunted. There was a ghost there. There was a person that looked like they were from like the 1860s, like a Civil War era soldier that would walk around the farm. I saw a woman that looked like she might have been from the 1800s, dressed in a bonnet and whatever, feeding chickens. It's like, must have been something she did every day. She's like, that's a ghost. I heard voices and footsteps. She's like, that was not what this was. She's like, I wouldn't even be bothering with this if I didn't think it was serious. She's like, but you do what you want to do. And she goes, and maybe not every house in this neighborhood is haunted. I don't know. She's like, I just know that mine and our two neighbors' houses had issues. We don't know what was on that land before, but there is a little bit of an urban legend that's attached to this, right? So what she told them, they were like looking at each other, and honestly, they got in their car, and Eddie's like laughing. He goes, you believe this? The real estate agent's a haunted house? And Andrea, having been in a house that was messed up when she was young, She says, yeah, I do, Eddie. She's like, I felt something in there. And he's like, okay, well, that's the third house that you've felt something in. And Eddie, by his own admission, said he should not have been so whatever. And she's like, well, maybe that's because there is something here. She's like, she seems like a very level-headed person. And then the snippiness begins, you know. And he's like, well, I don't know. She might be some kind of kook. And he goes, she's like, well, something was you liked about her because you couldn't stop staring at her. You know, and there it goes. There it is right there. And Eddie's like, oh, okay. So because she's pretty, you know, and is that a reason why we should believe her? I'm telling you that we need to buy a house. And this is where we should live because our family and our friends, and there's a good school here and whatever. And she's like, it doesn't matter. We're going to do what you want to do, right? And when we get into a big argument, he tells me, he says, well, and I could hear it in his voice. He goes, if I could have seen the future. And I told Eddie, I said, isn't that it? I said, Eddie, if I could go back in time, you know, they had one of those things on Facebook. What would you take? $1 billion, time travel, you know, all these different, whatever, breathe underwater, whatever.
Mhm.
I was like, I would 100% take the time travel because I would go back to key points in history and then come back to my point and I'd be rich.
Yeah.
I would go back to 1952 just for the hell of it. And I would be like,
Man,
don't throw those tops into the harbor. They threw them in New York Harbor, cases of tops, the first year that they printed them, right?
Mhm.
Mickey Mantle and Willie Mays' rookie cards. And how many of them got thrown into the harbor? And I would just get tons of those boxes and open them up all in mint condition. And then you come back to the future and you're like, I was searching Grandpa's attic and I found 20 mint Mickey Mantles and 20 Willie Mays, and I'm going to have them all graded.
It's just this whole crazy thing, man.
Yeah, so I'd hire like buku security. I'm talking like guys that I know from the old days from Russia. I'm here for the card, the mantle card. I don't know who he is, but if you fuck this up, I fuck you up. While he drinks shots of vodka with the tattoos on his hands, you know. It's a dead giveaway that he's a businessman. Maybe hire a couple of my Yakuza friends just to stand there with samurai swords. You like it, your pinky? You're graded this card.
I would go back to where, like, all these people that find just ancient gold, like,
oh, that's a given.
just go be like, oh wow, what amazing finds!
Yeah. I would
Multiple
go there,
times, 17
family in
times in a
Tosha.
row.
Dude, I would be all over the place. I would go back in time and I would just hang out with Alexander and
Oh,
Aristotle.
that would be so cool.
And I would be like, you need to not go back to Babylon.
A lot of mosquitoes there.
A lot of us, yeah. And then who knows what he really had? He might have had that disease, which is horrible, where you can't move because his eyes were moving.
Yeah.
But then you get buried alive.
Oh
horrible way to
Lord,
go.
Alexander, I've created this magical thing called mosquito repellent.
You give him deep woods off. He
Yeah.
conquers the world. You spread Hellenism further than we thought you would, all the way to Japan. But here's the thing. I digress. What we are talking about is if I told Eddie, I said, if I could go back in time, I would change everything. You probably mess it up too, because I don't think I could sit there and watch my Lord and Savior be crucified by a bunch of primates. The primates, not only the ones that had it done, but the primates doing it. I don't think I could sit there and look at that. I'd probably go back in time with an AK and then mess things up. I don't think that should happen. I don't think God would let you do that. But that would be the hard part for me. There would be certain points in history where, you know, maybe Franz Ferdinand doesn't be shot. And maybe you go back and you deal with certain individuals who caused that to happen. The world is a completely different place. Making multiple timelines while you're doing it too, and then going and visiting all those timelines, that would be cool, wouldn't it? But it's a no-brainer, time travel. Because with time travel, who needs $2 billion? You could have trillions of dollars. You could own 51% of the world's wealth. Instead of the Rothschilds. So he says, if I had a crystal ball, I said, everybody wants that crystal ball to be able to see. into the future, right? If only. If only. And so I told him, I said, don't beat yourself up. And he says, Wolf, it was just, I mocked my own wife to her face when she had trepidation. He didn't say trepidation, that's my words, but he said she had misgivings about it. And I said, that trepidation, God tells you that, hey, maybe this isn't what you need to do. But then again, maybe it was what you had to do because you came out on the other end. But before they came out on the other end and safely pulled their ship into the harbor, not New York Harbor where all the top cars got disintegrated, but the harbor that God gave them for a safe haven. The passage was rough. He said, and at the end, our marriage has never been stronger. They're living in Missouri still, and they live. They you know, like I said on the other episode, they're not happily ever after, but they're okay. But he goes, it was real bad. And when he told me the first thing, he says, look, I don't know what you talked with Barbara and Beatrice and all of them. He says, but I know what happened to us. I know. And then when I talked to Barbara and Beatrice, we talked about a little bit about them. When I talked to them, we talked a little bit about Barbara and Beatrice. They know each other's stories, which lends to the credibility of it. And I was listening to this and I was going like, dude, when they were talking, I was putting myself in their shoes and going like, what would I have done? There were certain points where I lived in a house that was messed up, so I know I would have stood my ground, but the average person would have probably just packed their shit and got the hell out of there, and you would be done. You're going to be like, you know what? I don't care. Keep all of this. It's not worth it to me. But 2 years go by. They buy a house. The first 2 years, he said it was crazy. The first 2 years was like, there was like this honeymoon. Every now and then something would happen, something weird. After that, you know, there was a few little things, and it was a while before we got pregnant. You know, he said the way he says it, he's a very loving husband, loves his wife, and she definitely loves him. He said it was a couple years before we got pregnant. You know who he reminds me of? Who this couple reminds me of? I'm going to say this, and no offense to Eddie because I don't want him to think, but he's kind of chubby, right? Mm-hmm. But they remind me of Doug and Carrie from King of Queens. Oh, yeah. That's who they remind me of. That's just the way he talks, and even kind of how he looks. And like I said, no offense to him because some people think, you know, Kevin, what's it, James. is great looking guys. Some people don't. I've heard it, you know, that they think he's this or that. And some people think he's great, but she's like very pretty and kind of like, you know, like you dumbass, you know, kind of like that, you know, and he's always making excuses for his bad behavior, except he's not a delivery guy. He makes food for a living, but, you know, and he was like, look, I made the decision, you know, to do this. We had a big argument and I won. He said, but I wish I wouldn't have. He goes, but then, he goes, after the first year, there was 2 events that happened, and we'll go in order. The first year, he said there was one thing that happened. He goes, this is weird. He's like, so it was wintertime, and in San Antonio, it does get cold. It doesn't get cold like this isn't Nebraska, but it gets cold, you know, down here. I'm in Austin. I'm like an hour and 20 minutes probably. So they said, look, left her jacket, and she's like, I got to go back in and grab it. He goes, I remember her telling her, hey, honey, you forgot your jacket. It's on the couch. He's kind of standing there waiting. They're getting ready to go to Target or something. She goes back in, and she's in for a little while. And he's like, I'm getting aggravated. I'm like, what in the hell? This woman is always doing this shit. And then the makeup taking forever. You know, he's thinking all this crap. She comes out, and she's like, I can't find my jacket. And he's like, it's right there. It's a gray coat. It's right there. And he's like, I'm not going to get mad. I'm not going to get mad. He walks in. He's like, honey, it's not there. He's like, I watched. He goes, we were talking. He goes, I saw the coat right there on the couch. We walk out of the house. She goes back in. The coat's not there. And get this, they never found it. Like it didn't turn up somewhere else. It was gone, completely gone. He said, My father was a coin collector. He goes, he was rabid about it. He would go to these coin shows when we were kids. He would take us, and then my mom and dad would fight because he would spend too much money on it. Then when he passed away, I was like, thank God Dad had all these coins. Funny how that works, right?
Mhm.
He's going through the coin collection. It's worth $74,000 and some change. And this was back in like 2002, right? And he inherited it. And guess how it happened? His two siblings were so greedy, according to Eddie, they were so greedy that they were like, they didn't want to divide it up three-way because they couldn't figure out who would get what coin. So they did this draw straws thing with their cousin. He said, to this day, I think my cousin helped me because she hated his brother because of they're not getting along, whatever. He goes, but he doesn't know. So he goes, I thought that was a terrible idea. I'm like, one of us is going to get all of it, and the other ones aren't going to get anything. He goes, so they're like, I can only imagine them doing this, good, the bad, the ugly thing at the end there where they're all three looking at each other. So Eddie pulls the straw and he's like, yes, he wins. And he's like, I get the coin collection now to get it appraised. One appraiser said it's worth $86,000, but wouldn't give him the money for it. Another one said it's only worth $57,000. He said that was bullcrap. Went to another guy, $74,000. How do you want that? I'll take it. Check, cash, I don't give a crap, whatever. And the guy gave him the money, and that guy was a dealer, but also a collector. And he said it's probably worth about 80, He goes, but I'll give you 74 because that's how much I can give you right now. So he took it, and they did renovations. And he goes, we went on trips and we did some things. And then he said there were 2 coins that I kept. Those 2 coins together were worth about 11 grand, right? And he said that they were very rare, and they were like some kind of, I can't remember what he said. They were Spanish coins, Roman from the Roman era, but they were from Spain, like Iberian, ancient, very, and they were worth about 11 grand or 10, 11 grand a piece. I can't remember how he said, but they're worth a lot of money. So he decided to keep those because the guy was honest and told him these 2 are worth a lot, and I can't afford to give you which those are worth. But if you hang on to them later on, maybe when I get the money together, or you could just hang on to them, they're only going to be going up in value. This is, he said, I put them away in a drawer. We had just had our first child. My firstborn was a daughter. And he's like, and one day those coins just went missing. And me and my wife had a huge fight because there's nobody in the house but her and me. Right? And we got a really good deal on this house. The neighborhood was getting to where it was getting older, and the crime rate wasn't, it was getting worse, and so he's like, dude, we had a really good deal on the house. So we bought a 4-bedroom house, preparing like, hey, one day we'll have children, and we were wanting 3 children. That's what we wanted. So everything was working out. But he said those incidents taught me something was not right in that place. Here's what happens. He's up in the attic one day looking for some Christmas decorations, and he finds those coins in a box of Christmas decorations. He said that in of itself was weird. He goes, but that was only the first year. Also in that first year, he goes, every now and then I would hear the shuffling of feet, and sometimes I would hear what sounded like somebody trying to break into the house. But I would go downstairs, and there would be nobody there trying to break into the house. I don't know what the hell it was. It was just a lot of noise. He goes, and then he's like, the second year comes, and it's about the same. Nothing too, out of the ordinary. It's just, normal, innocuous things. He's like, but one day, he goes, I was half asleep, and I was having to get up to do a catering job. I was working for a catering company. He goes, one of my friends started a catering company. He goes, and he was always running late. And he goes, and so that was making me late. And he goes, so I had to take the bull by the horns and just decide I am going to get up early. I'm going to be there on time, and I'm going to make sure that we get this done. I'm going to get up an hour early, right? He says, I go out to the parking lot, and here is something you got to pay attention to. We've talked about this on many different paranormal cases. that sleepiness that overcomes people for no damn reason.
Mhm.
Now, if you're on Ambien, you're taking melatonin, you're on lorazepam or Xanax, or
Yeah.
drinking, smoking of the devil's lettuce, any of these other things that could cause this tiredness, then get the heck out of Dodge. Okay, we're not talking about that. We're talking about a guy who's not on medication, not even on blood pressure medication, and he walked outside. And he goes out to the car. He goes, it was cold. He goes, it was a January day. He's probably in the 40s, 50s, whatever. Cold for San Antonio. And he's like, and I get the car started. He goes, and then I open my eyes and it's 9 a.m. And I had been sleeping out there for 3.5 hours, almost 4 hours. And he's like, what the hell? I look, and Lance, that's his business partner, has called. He's called me 30 times. He says, where are you at, dude? This is a breakfast catering event at a military base. One of the Air Force bases. There was 3 of them back then. And he's like, what the freak? He goes, I couldn't. He goes, Wolf, I couldn't believe it. Fall asleep. I'm out like a light. He's like, in a million years, this would never happen to me. He goes, I'm the responsible one in this partnership. And of course, he was late. And a big part of it was because of me. I wasn't there to help prep and do all this stuff. I was going to get to the place and get it started and 5 o'clock, right? And have it ready to go by 11 o'clock lunch, and breakfast was brunch, right? And what did we do? We blew it. And I'm sure his partner's like, what is this we stuff? He said, and then we blew another one from the same people, and that was it. That was because Lance, that was the second one. Lance had done the first one. And he said that was it. We lost our biggest client. Eventually, that company folded, and I ended up going to work at a restaurant. And then eventually, he ended up working at a restaurant that we used to like to go to down on the Riverwalk. Oh. But he says this. He says, he goes, it was bizarre. I told my wife, I said, I had slept early. I went to bed at 9. I go out there and I close my eyes while I'm waiting for the car to warm up, and then I'm asleep. And he said, and then another time, he goes, this happened to me and my wife. We would leave the garage door open sometimes because, even though the neighborhood, the area around there had gotten a little bad, but our neighborhood still was kind of, seemed like kind of a safe haven. I'd sit out there with my neighbors, my friend Manny, he was really, really close. And we sit out there, me, him, and his cousin. She was a crazy, crazy ass Cholita, and they would watch sports together. And she was always, she always had the devil's lettuce. He goes, and back then, before my kids were born, I would smoke, and we'd leave the garage door open, and we'd watch TV, football, baseball, whatever. Kind of a disheveled man cave, right? And his wife had a rule: just don't smoke that shit in the house. She didn't like it. She didn't like the drinking or smoking. Eventually, he quit. He goes, I quit doing that a long time ago. And he says, I wasn't real big on it anyway. He's like, but, when there's friends around and some of the guys from the neighborhood would come over and people that I knew from when I was younger, my brother would drop by, and we'd hang out in the garage. He's like, and then one day my wife comes out and she's like, hey, I'm going to go pick up the pizza. You want to ride with me? And he's like, sure. And he goes, he's just sitting there watching a baseball game. So he goes and he gets in the car with her, and when they're pulling out, she's like, oh, and she slams on the brakes, and he sees for a minute what looks like this giant humanoid stand up. And where the head would have been was so tall that it was through the ceiling, and it walked out like it was like whoop, whoop, real quick, like fast. She saw it sitting there, then stand up. So she saw what the head and the face looked like. It was wearing this like turban, one of those that come with a sash that comes down the end, and then this weird thing around its shoulders, which was almost like how they use those to carry water. Those it was like there were these scales, like not reptilian scales, but like something the scales that you would like scales of justice. Really weird. She got drinking one night wine with some friends. She would drink once in a blue moon, and they had a little Tupperware party she went to in the neighborhood, 2 or 3 houses down. And Eddie said that this woman liked to scare the shit out of her, for lack of a better term. He goes, I hate it when she went to Isabel's because that woman was always talking all this crazy stuff. I told Eddie, I said, what is crazy stuff to you? What do you mean? What is this crazy stuff? He says, I mean, like every time she comes back, she can't sleep at night because it is Isabel and her sister are, and they're my stupid neighbors. He goes, at the time, I thought this. Now I know better. But at the time, I thought, these are some stupid, crazy people. Right? And don't take offense, ladies, but he did say that women can be irrational and hysterical and, whatever. And I said, don't I know it? I mean, I didn't say that.
What?
Eddie said that shit. And I was like, I don't agree with that at all. I think women are precious princesses that should be protected.
They're
Everything they say is correct.
amazing.
And you should do it.
You rebuked him immediately.
I said, I rebuketh thy, sir.
Set him straight.
I've never known a woman to be
I
wrong.
would slapeth thy face through the phone if I could. Lucky for you, I cannot. Being a Southern gentleman, I will give you one chance. Second chance, I will throw you to swim yourself in the river. Thrice, and I'm going to start screaming. I'm going to start screaming on that ass. I'm going to be like, oh, and then I'm going to hang up. That makes perfect sense from a man's point of view. Women, you wouldn't understand that. I set him straight, though. I let him take care of him. He's not going to.
Taking care of business.
I promise after we were done with this conversation, he never spoke an ill word of a woman again.
Women crazy? That's insane in itself.
What an insane concept. Suffice it to say, he is now working with Gloria Steinem.
Of course.
In the Now movement.
Independence.
Television for women. The Lifetime movie network where every movie's a woman getting beaten.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Life of Abuse Network.
It's empowering.
Cameron Diaz gets run over by a car in the Lifetime original car. It was him or us. It's going to be us. Trust me. Him is just right out. Okay. So anyways, back to the story. So what happens? He says, look, he goes, I just, these women, he goes, they're a bunch of chismosas, in Spanish. What does that mean in Spanish, Anthony? Tell the crowd what it means.
Like nosy, busybody, always sticking your nose in people's
talking,
business, gossiping,
Yeah, gossiping old hens, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he says, these women, they're always talking. He goes, and she comes back and she's like, you know what Gloria told me? He goes, no, but I'm sure you're going to tell me. And she's like, she was grabbed by the ankles and something pulled her off of the bed and it touched her. And he's like, he starts laughing. She gets, what? He goes, she made that up. And he goes, why would you think that she made that up? She goes, dude, she's 400 pounds and she's 4'11". Nobody's touching her. Okay? Not even whatever that was. She has a dog and it doesn't come to her because, it wants to live. This guy's funny. Like he said that and we were joking back and forth. And then I made a joke about another particular person from YouTube. But I said, look, man, I said, all jokes aside, I said, seriously. And he goes, yeah, I said some things that probably weren't too nice.
Not nice.
I do things that are not correct to do. I do things that are not nice. I am a bad man.
Some say I am a bad man.
Call me Betty. But anyway, Kung Pao there, right? So he says, look, I don't know what this is. Something pulled her off the bed, right? It pulled her off the bed, right? It's sure. I'm watching the Cowboys game. I don't care what the hell happened to Gloria. I don't believe it. But it's, first and goal. I got to see what's happening here. And she's like, Eddie. She's like, something touched my ankles the other day. And he looks at her and goes, it's probably me. Because remember, you were going to cook dinner and you didn't want to wake up. And so, I tried to pull you and pretended like you were having a nightmare and you woke up and So I'm listening to this guy, and I'm like, "You did that?" He goes, "Yeah. I get tired of cooking, man. You know, it's her turn. She cooks good too. You should take her carne asada. It's the best." I said, "Okay, Eddie." So he says, "Yeah." So when she woke up, she goes, "I don't know. I thought I was dreaming or something. Something was grabbing me, and it was like a nightmare." And he goes, "Really? You know what though? If you went downstairs and made some huevos rancheros, some carne asada," he goes, "that would probably make you feel a lot better." Always does me.
Win-win.
And then she was just like, no. This was like something was jostling me around. He's going, it was me. And now all of a sudden, Gloria is being pulled off the bed, which he goes, "That's a really strong man to do that." So we had a good laugh. But I said, honestly, though, in all honesty, Eddie, I said, all joking aside, fun talking to the guy. I love talking to people. You know, I do. Anybody that's talked to me knows Anthony's, you've heard it. Half of it's laughing and shit.
Yeah.
And then the other half is scary shit. But my way of coping with this is by laughter, because I can't sit there and listen to this demonic shit all the time and then be like, I got to be able to, because demons hate laughter. Unless it's evil, But this is what happened. He said, she comes back with this story. She goes, no, that's not all though. He's like, but wait, there's more, right? And he's like, great. Let me pause the TV. Yeah, what happened to these other, whatever. And she's like, okay, Eddie, I know you don't believe it, but there's something in this neighborhood. Something grabbed Isabel. He goes, oh God. He goes, she's the second fattest person in the neighborhood. He's like, dude, who is this strong barbarian that's able to accost these women? And why would he be doing it? Knowing what we know now, though, and I told Eddie, I said, they don't care about that. It's spiritual energy. He goes, oh, I know now. Yeah. But at the time, he goes, Isabel and her sister Gloria, they're really rotund women. He goes, they're not pretty and they're loud mouths. He said, try going to a catfish buffet with them, watch them eat. This is what he told me. He said, it is not a pleasant experience, Wolf. He's like, they came to my restaurant and they ordered enough food for 4 people. I thought, oh, there's 4 big dishes and an appetizer. No, it was just them 2. And 4 baskets of chips later and half a gallon of hot sauce. And they didn't take anything home.
Diet Coke.
Of course, Diet Coke. The aspartame is the dessert.
It's good for you.
You have 2 desserts as a overweight Hispanic woman. You have the Diet Coke, which is the pre dessert, and then you have flan.
Of course.
With the caramel in there. You gotta have the pilancio. You gotta have it. That's just
super necessary.
Tres leches. Go.
Yeah. The sopapillas.
Yeah, the sopapillas. The sopapilla. That's an appetizer.
Yeah.
Right? That's an appetizer. Okay. You want me to be voluptuous? I have to have my comida. Right?
I want me to have my carbs.
My carbs.
I'm not fat, I'm athletic.
Plus, I bring carbs. Carbs bring them too, and talk about that. But that's fine. He said that they're over there. He goes, they're gorging them. So they're big. They're big, right? And he said, I am so sick of hearing about these women. He goes, I would ride my bike. We had a mountain, like a bike, and they had these trails a little bit behind the house where they had started to build shit and they didn't. It was kind of creepy. It was all these like shells, and they had just left them there.
Abandoned.
Yeah, and then eventually they tore them down. But he goes, back then they were still there. And he goes, and I would ride my bike through there. And he goes, and I see these 2 large individuals walking. And I thought, oh, we had some sumo wrestlers that moved in. That wasn't, it was them. And he says, this is his words, not mine. And he's like, he goes, I rode my bike up and they're like, hey, what's up, Eddie? And he goes, they looked like they had walked too far. And he's like, are y'all okay? Because they're like, and then one of them goes, I need to sit down. And she goes and she leans on this fence of this abandoned house and it falls because it's dilapidated. It falls in.
Yes.
He said, but the crazy thing was that when she fell, something in that house moved. And me and Gloria saw it. And Isabel got up real fast, rolling around, trying to get up. And Gloria looked at him. He looked at her and she goes, Mira. Like she points and he was like, yeah, I saw something. He believes that this is the one and only encounter he may have had with what we call the dog man. He said it was in the evening in August. late August. And he said that these women were walking, and that's when this happened. And they saw something get up and move and then run into the darkness. And it didn't leave, it didn't go out of the house, but that would have been just a wall. So it sounds like he might have seen something that was a spiritual dogman. He said it was all black. He said, but other people in the neighborhood, my friend Manny, he said, Manny told me this. Mr. Kaides, who lived down the street, said the same thing. And we had these Vietnamese people that lived down the corner. They saw something. We had this big block party for Halloween. He's like, and this is weird. He said this was their 4th year there at that house. He's like, we were trying to get pregnant at that time. And he said it was the 4th year in that house. He said it was crazy. He's like, we were like, really, we saw this person walking around in a werewolf costume. The costume looked so real that people had taken pictures of it and thought, who is this guy in a costume? It's amazing. And the guy was 7 foot tall and built like a bodybuilder. We headed to a Halloween party downtown where my job was at that time. So me and my wife were like, we're the cool kids. We get to go to this really nice party. But in the meantime, we helped with trick-or-treating. I didn't see the costume, but Andrea did. Andrea told me about it. She said, Wolf, this guy looked real. He looked like a werewolf. He wasn't speaking either. And when he breathed, you could see his chest, and he was standing there, and he was looking at everybody. And she goes, and it was horrific. It was terrifying. Little kids were crying. And eventually one of the, people came up, one of the neighborhood leaders. Well, he thinks he is anyway. He goes up to him and he's like, sir, you're scaring the kids. You really need to leave. And it nodded its head like that and then walked back toward those abandoned houses. They never saw this person again. Who was it? Was it a real werewolf? Was it a person not in a costume, maybe in a costume in the way that it wants to pretend like, right? Mm-hmm. She said that this is where another person claimed to have seen what they called the giant. This thing was sitting inside or laying down in one of the houses, and these 2 little girls were playing back there, and they see these 2 big feet with sandals. You could see the sandals and everything, and this thing lifted up its head, and it had red hair like a fro, like flowing everywhere, and a big red massive beard. And when it got up and lifted its head, it put its headdress on and sat up and was looking at these kids, and they took off running. When these people would see this giant, inevitably these women would be accosted by something that they described that was like an incubus. And eventually, after the 3rd year, about the middle of the 3rd year, Eddie says it happened to my wife. He said, I was at work. I was working late. I told her I wouldn't be home till after 11 o'clock. He says, and something crawls into the bed with her and tries to crawl on top of her. At that time, she was substitute teaching part-time, and then she had another job. She ran a daycare. And he said that, we were thinking about buying the daycare and just taking it over, but it was a lot of work. And I would have to cut back on mine and have to help to get it started and then go back to my job. And he was like, I don't know if I can swing this. So what ends up happening, he says, I come home, she's just in a fit, and she's on the phone with this other busybody lady that lives in the neighborhood, And he says, I'm just not a fan of these women. They're just gossipers, and they're always making stuff up, right? He says, but now it's affecting me in my house, and then started affecting me in the bedroom, because at night this thing would mess with her, and at first she thought it was me. And he's like, I'm not doing this. Because I'm not just going to jump on you and try to force myself, whatever. And she's like, look, I told you, there's a reason why I can't do it right now, whatever. And it's a female thing, right? And this thing, whatever it was not taking no for an answer. And now this may be a little uncomfortable for people to hear, but this thing was trying to force itself on her, like assault her. And then she finally figured out, hey, this isn't Eddie, because he was gone one day. He had to go in early to do the breakfast thing, because it was this promotion they had at his job, and she was getting ready for work, and he had left before her, and something got into the shower with her. full on open the shower curtain. She's soaping her hair. She looks up, sees this shower curtain being pulled, and she's watching this, and there is nothing there. Shower curtain keeps moving, and she's like, it was the most incredible thing I'd ever seen in my life. It validated what I had been thinking, that there was something here. She's like, but what I saw in the mirror was stunning. She said it was black, and you could see little nodules, like little horns going on its spine, like on where the spine was. There were little horns, like little nodules going up it. The back of its head was bald. It was skinny, had little skinny legs, and it had like a little nub, kind of like a tail. Yeah, but a nub. And she's like, I could see it standing there. It was like a demon, but I could just see the backside of it. I didn't see the face. And when I would look in the direction of this thing full on, there was nothing there. She's like, I screamed and I swatted at it instinctively, and there was nothing. My hand hit nothing. I look in the mirror and it's gone. She's like, that was the single most horrific thing she'd ever seen until she saw the black vampire-looking thing in the house in Kansas City. And I asked her, I said, which one do you think was more horrific? She goes, the same. She goes, and they looked kind of similar, but not quite. So she said that when they moved into the house in Kansas City, they didn't know that there was already a history of something there. So they thought that whatever was in San Antonio followed them. She goes, but I stayed in touch with my family and friends in SA in San Antonio. And she said, so they were still having the haunting. It was still going on. There was still something that was stalking that neighborhood and messing with the people. So she doesn't believe that that thing followed them. She thinks it stayed there in San Antonio. But it's interesting because they looked very similar. But she said that there was a distinct difference. The one in Kansas City seemed a lot more powerful and more focused on just them. And it was territorial. Whereas this thing was moving around the neighborhood. This thing that she had happen in San Antonio was like transient, if that makes sense, right? Whereas this thing over there in Kansas City was like, this is mine and you are here. And I'm not after you personally, but if you're going to be in my hidey hole, I'm going to feed on you. That's my take on it, right? That's not what she said, but that's the gist of what I believe. And also, this thing in Kansas City, it had a taste for blood because the thing in SA wasn't necessarily a vampire, but she did become anemic at that time. And Eddie's blood work was all jacked up by the time they were in like their 12th year there or something. His blood work was all wacky. His doctor was like, what the hell, you know? And this was this thing messing with them, right? And she said that there were multiple things going on. There were people in the neighborhood, some kids that were riding their bikes that claimed to have been chased by what can only be described as a black hellhound-like creature that stood up like a man, morphed into this black-looking creature, like you would think of like a pale crawler, but black, and crawl down into a culvert and then go through a ditch, spider-like, and disappear. It didn't look like a spider, but the way it crawled, it definitely had that characteristic. These were children in the neighborhood. And still another couple claimed to have seen this giant walking through their yard at like 12 o'clock at night. So all these things are happening in this neighborhood. But think about this, though. It wasn't like it all happened in one big, like this was every day. You're talking about, 2 decades of stuff, right? So that's it. That's the case. It's like stuff is happening and it would happen in little spurts and then it would go away. And one woman described this giant that was looking in her window, the same thing that their daughter had seen the first time that she saw it. But it wouldn't be the last time. She described a head floating on the floor, a giant head that matched the giant, but it could have been because its head was sticking up through the... So the story was that when this is the urban legend, right? The story was that when they were building that subdivision, when it was first being laid out and being built or whatever, that they had uncovered giant legs and part of the torso and then part of a skull, and that it was like 14 feet tall. But that some museum there in San Antonio took the bones and then sold them to another museum. And I want to say it was the museum that we were at when we went to go watch Ken speak and eat dinner. Because when I was doing some research, I called that museum. And yeah, I don't know. It was weird. The guy that I talked to had only been there for a few years, but he had been there for a few years. And he did say that he remembers there being a story where they had a giant skeleton or parts of one that was recovered somewhere. But he said he thought it was down in South Texas and it ended up in their museum. And then they subsequently transferred it because they sold it. And the money that they made from that was able to help them keep the doors open for like a decade. Is that the truth? I don't know. That's what this guy told me. You know, and I was pretty good at talking to the guy and getting him to open up to me. But I just told him, I said, like, I'm doing some research. I'm sort of an armchair journalist and, you know, used all these keywords, which you got to do. You know, told him I just, you know, I'm not going to quote you. I won't say your name. You know, I won't say your name when I talk about it, whatever. And he said, okay. And so I'm not going to say the name of the museum, and y'all know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
I know that when I was hanging out down there with Ken one time that it did come up about, you know, different, I'm always on the lookout for stories. And I said, you have all these connections with these museums and the zoo, if you know anybody who's got any stories, whatever. And there was somebody who inboxed me, and I think it was before the great purge of our email that destroyed all those emails. This person had literally emailed me about a giant skeleton being found in the south side of San Antonio. But I can't find the email. I mean, I can go back and search history and you can whatever, but we move everything over to files and I don't see them in the files. So I don't know. I couldn't really, you know, like pinpoint it down, right? All I got was like, yeah, I heard this story, or it's a possibility, and maybe, and some people saying, you know, yeah, but nothing that can nail it down and concretely say like this is what was what. Do I believe that this could be? Yeah, I do believe that this could be the case. Another thing about this particular giant that people were seeing was that it had red hair. Some of the giants that we hear about from the Native American stories are red-haired giants, and the ones that people were seeing in Afghanistan, red-haired giants. A couple of the stories from Turkmenistan and Azerbaijan, red-haired giants. Are these the Iliad? Because I think that they would be the Iliad, which would be the smallest,
offspring of the Nephilim.
The offspring of the Nephilim, the offspring of the Nephidim, the offspring of the Nephil, and they're the offspring of the Nephidim, and it just goes on. And I think each generation got smaller.
Mm-hmm.
I think during the Dwapara Yuga, people were, yeah, probably Richard. Look, see what Richard says, Tony. There you go. What do you have to say to that? You're going to take that?
That's actually a great idea.
Oh, Tony's actually working for the shadow government, the black government.
Yeah, he's a shill. He's being paid
all this time. Disrupt their operation, and then they're like, "You're very bad at your job."
He's an agent of controlled opposition.
You're not.
That's why he's here. You
need to do more, hide more. Do you want that Steam card every month? The Steam games. Or not.
I'll do it all for a Steam card.
I just figured they probably figured that Tony's probably low rent. He's gonna get. This kid was a pothead. He claims he's reformed. We don't know.
Got to save up for GTA 6. It's gonna be like $90.
What is GTA 6? Yellowstone. GTA 6 Yellowstone, downtown Bozeman. It's just like two streets. You're out in the country for miles and miles.
Yeah.
If it ever comes out.
Watch out for brucellosis. I don't want that.
Yeah.
You know, I tell you what you can do, though. What you can do for me right now is give me a poppy. Well, now you're going to do a Scorp. Look, show everybody how Scorp grabs things.
Hey, check it out. Hey, grab this phone for me. Dude, just grab it. Dude, just grab it. Took all that.
Scorp, you did it. You did it, Scorp.
Okay, now hand me the phone.
Look, Scorpion, making strides.
Just extend your arm and hand. Okay, there you go. Thank you.
Scorp does a Stephen Hawking impression that you wouldn't believe.
Oh my gosh. He does it naturally.
He's not even paid for it.
Pretty soon, he can still talk and walk, but he's just going to not walk, and he's just going to start going, I didn't want to have to do that. And, you know, you made me do this.
Yeah, when
not do my job.
When AI allows him to stop talking, that's when you'll just hear a robot voice everywhere.
You asked for this ass beating. He rolls his wheelchair into you.
Oh my gosh, is he paralyzed?
And the batteries go out.
Yeah.
He just wants to live like that.
You made me do this. Feed me applesauce.
Enough of this. Take this man's batteries out. Shut him up.
He gets mad and he stands up. This is ridiculous. Not gonna go walk. I remember D was complaining about people like, why you complain about being in a wheelchair? I wish I didn't have to walk.
Yeah. I won't have to walk no more.
Tell somebody in a wheelchair that? Come on, dude. Really? Because they would love to walk. Right? Here you are complaining.
I wish I had your problems, kid.
I have to do all this walking, you know. It's just oh boy. So anyway, these people this is all this stuff that it went on over the course of like years, right? And so, you know, when you take it all together, it's not like it happened every day. It wasn't an everyday thing. It wasn't like I always say, it wasn't the Amityville Horror. Within a month, the walls were bleeding and we were out of there. Get out. Get out. Get out. That's just the person at the Wendy's because they're like, you've been here ordering food for 3 hours and you need to go. Isabel. We've been closed. We've been nice to you. You've already eaten all the leftover chili. It's time to go. No, I think what's funny is that people think that, oh, all that stuff happened in that area. Yeah, it did. Yeah. But it was, you know, like I said, over the course of 2 decades.
Yeah, it's not like Halloween Town or Goosebumps.
No. This is just me condensing it into like an hour and a half to 2 hours of you telling you what went on in this place. But it did get to the point in their house with this Incubus creature to where they were like, hey, man, enough of this shit. We got to go. And when they got the opportunity to go to Kansas City, they wanted to start over fresh anyway. The school there was getting bad. The neighborhood was getting bad. And eventually, the crime got bad enough where they were like, hey, it is really, truly time to go. The vehicle of his brother, who was staying there with them temporarily before he left to Kansas City, got stolen. Now, it's a Dodge Charger or a Dodge Challenger. And it was a very nice car. And when you got one of those Challengers, and you got like Scat Pack, Hellcat, all that kind of, yeah, those are very highly stolen cars. So his car got stolen. So he told his brother, he's like, you know what, it's time to go, bro. They stole my car. Now, he got it back, but it was all messed up and destroyed and tore up. And he got a raw deal from the insurance on it. And he was just like, I'm done. Luckily, it wasn't his main vehicle. He had a truck and that. He's like, my brother was doing pretty good. He was up and left. And we were like, damn, if he can up and leave, why don't we up and leave? So then they did. The activity that was going on in their house was not the deciding factor, though, believe it or not. It was actually just the last straw. Like, hey, we're already having a bunch of problems, you know, with this neighborhood getting older. You know, people having like 10 broken down cars in their yard, and, you know, everybody had these pit bulls running around, and the neighborhood was run down. The school system was getting worse and worse and worse. And he's like, it was just time to go. And he said that thank goodness we did, because there was a shooting in that neighborhood like about a year later, and it was just bad. He said, but that house, the entity was starting to hang around more and more around my wife. He goes, and I could feel it. I remember one time, he goes, I was standing in the bedroom, talking on the phone. I'm walking around holding my cell phone, and my wife is laying there asleep, and I saw her leg go up and come back down. He said that wasn't even the worst thing that had happened in that house. He goes, but that was the it right there. I am done. What in the hell was that? He said, and she just kind of moved like, and he's like, what the freaking hell was that? I'm done with this. He said it was, and he goes, and I was a Christian, Catholic. He goes, but I wasn't really grounded in my faith. And then when I went to Kansas City, then I really found God the way I believe that I should have found God. He's like, and that's what really helped. He's like, and then the story of what happened to us, because we had talked about what happened to them in Kansas City before, and then I went back and talked about what happened in San Antonio. So I was like, well. He goes, the story about what happened to us in Kansas City. He goes, and what happened to Barbara and Beatrice and her husband and Barbara to a lesser degree the second time around. He's like, so about all that? I said, yeah. He said, yeah, it was a group effort to rid ourselves of this, whatever it was. He's like, and this is what he told me. He goes, unfortunately, whatever was in that house, and he lives 2 streets over from that house in Kansas City now. He said, whatever was in that house, the people that moved in over there was a drug bust. And they got popped with selling drugs or whatever. And he said that unfortunately, he's like they didn't go and raid it, but the people that were living there the guy got in trouble for drugs or something like that. So it wasn't like they came and kicked the door in, but that dude was busted. So he said that unfortunately, he goes, that family ended up having to move out of that house, and maybe because they were doing bad things, but he said that it got reinfested, or infected is his words, not infested. And I said, Eddie, what do you mean? And I kind of knew, but I wanted to hear it from him. And he said, well, if you talk to people from the neighborhood, he goes, the house sat empty for a few months because it wasn't on the market. Oh, bless you. And he said that we were walking by one time, and he goes, and we saw the lights all on in there. He's like, me and my wife looked at each other, and we just kept walking. We were walking around the neighborhood, and we thought, oh, okay, it looked like furniture, and people were living there. He goes, and the next day, I find out that I'm checking my mail, my neighbor's talking about it, and said, yeah, we were walking by that house, and the lights were coming off and on. He goes, well, there's people living there, and the guy goes, no, there's not. So his friend Gary told him, hey, man, there's nobody living there. So, he told him that. He said, there's nobody there. He said, then my friend tells me, he goes, we went into that house because it was unlocked, me and my wife, just to see, because the people that were living there supposedly were drug dealers or dealing drugs, and they were practicing like some dark things. He's like, some of the walls were painted black. It was weird. Who paints their walls black? I don't know. And he said there was black candle wax on the floors, like the remnants of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so Eddie believes that house is now haunted again. It's reinfected with something.
Yeah, they invited stuff to it.
So could have been a portal. Maybe that's why those people were drawn to it. I don't know. Here's the interesting thing. He's like, years later, he goes, I'm working at the Riverwalk at a restaurant. It's not there no more. We used to like to go there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if those people have reopened somewhere else. I'm not going to say the name of it, but it was like on the corner there. We liked that place. And we would go there and drink margaritas and then, walk around the Riverwalk. And I know a lot of people in San Antonio. I'm not as well known as I am downtown Austin, but downtown San Antonio, like I have a lot of friends. When Nellie first came, I took her for Memorial Weekend, and I went downtown San Antonio, and like every other club or bar, the people that ran it or worked it, they knew me. And my wife was like, damn, a lot of people know you here. I said, yep, I spent a lot of time in San Antonio. You guys know. Y'all been there with me a lot.
Mhm.
It's like my second favorite hangout. And then Fort Worth and Houston and Dallas. I go to Dallas as much, but Fort Worth and Houston, spend a lot of time in those places. And a little bit in El Paso. I've been all over Texas. And I like certain places, you know. And so what ended up happening is, you know, the whole how things come around full circle. He goes, I'm there, and there's this girl laughing and talking, and he goes, and I could hear her voice. She's very pretty. He's like, and I looked, and I was like, that looks like she looks familiar. He goes, so I'm walking over to the table. I'm the manager of this place at that time. He's like, so I helped him bring out the food, and I was like, your name is Meredith, and she's like, yeah. And he goes, you sold us a house. And you did it reluctantly. She goes, oh, that's right. She goes, yes, I remember you. She's like, yeah. She goes, I was bartending part-time. She was working all the time because I had just, you know, had my youngest was born, and he was done toddling. And so we were able to get, you know, him into daycare. And she goes, and then I started working all the time to catch up, pay the bills. So I was working. She's like, and I was bartending, and your wife came in there with her friends. She goes, and I remember they were throwing darts and stuff and hanging out after work. And they ran the daycare, and I got my son into the daycare. And she said, yeah. And then your wife ended up going to another place like a month later. And Eddie didn't even know that. He goes, I didn't even know that she had done that, or whatever. Because he said it was like at one point they were two ships passing in the night, just working, right, all the time, saving up because they wanted to start a family, but not just have kids like a bunch of Wolfs do. And then they can't afford them, so they're on WIC and everything else, you know, government assistance, you know, welfare, whatever. He said, we want to be like that. We wanted to be prepared, you know, so we planned it out. And he said, yeah. He goes, I really appreciate that you tried to talk us out of, you know, whatever. And this was like 2 months before they moved, right? And he said, so I was there talking to her, and then he goes, and I was helping bartend, and it was a busy weekend, and it was almost closed. And she came up to the bar, a couple of her girlfriends, and they're also there talking. And he's talking to her, and he's like, you know, they had a couple shots, whatever. And she's like, yeah, she was telling her friends, him and his wife are really good people. And then she said, I have a story about what happened to me in that neighborhood, and that's why I didn't want you to live there. Because she goes, I believed that it was haunted. And she's like, and she goes, and I got to tell you something. She's like, I believed that my husband became possessed at one point. She's like, and I forgive him. We're not together anymore, but he tried to kill me. And she's like, and one time when I was walking around in that neighborhood, I saw this very tall entity, right? Just walking on the other side of the street. And I saw it, and I was like staring at it, and I'm going, and he's like, did it look like a giant? Because Eddie never really saw it other than that, you know, there was like a time when they were driving and they saw something black. Otherwise he never really saw it. And she says, yeah. So Meredith told him some stuff. But Meredith's story got really intriguing because she talked to him about a guy named Nathan who saw the dog man in the south side of San Antonio, and he was going to search Donkey Lady Bridge. And this thing chased him and his friend. He believes that his friend died shortly thereafter from a heart attack because he started having chest pains after they encountered this dog man of Donkey Lady Bridge. I say Donkey Lady Bridge because he's about the fifth or sixth person. I know Anthony, we've heard this, who've actually, not just what's his name, Anthony Ceballos, who went through the portal, who came on the show and talked about going through the portal or whatever. But this guy, Nathan, and his friend. And I'm not going to talk about his friend because his friend passed away an untimely death. He was a jogger. He liked to run. He was very fit, and he was jogging, and he collapsed. That was in 2022. Wasn't that long ago. So they were messing around Donkey Lady Bridge, right? But anyways, Meredith told them, she said, you know, right before they moved to Kansas City, she said, I have a friend who has seen the dog man. And so this guy, she's talking about, his name was Marty. So what's his name? Eddie gives me the phone number to the guy. Now, I've left a message. I haven't gotten a response back from him. But according to what this woman told him when we started doing the research on this, Edward was a big help to me. And what he did was he contacted Meredith and got her in touch with me. And she's like, she goes, you need to talk to Marty and then Nathan. She's like, because they saw the dog man, not only in that neighborhood, but they saw it in Donkey Lady Bridge. And Nathan's friend subsequently passed away when he was jogging. Now, some people might say that Dick Richards says, I have a theory why. Yeah, maybe he did get that. We don't know. But the problems began right after he encountered this spook thing, whatever. But that's a story for another time, like Sunday. So if I have another show planned, but if I can get in touch with these guys and then this keeps going. And I got to tell you something. If you are a researcher, an aspiring author, YouTuber, podcaster, most of these people that have these stories, they've talked to other people. So find out who they've talked to and who they know. And I can't tell you, me and Anthony talked to a lady from the gym one time who was, her family used to live in Saudi Arabia. And one thing led to another, and she introduced us to a girl from Iraq, in Iraq. Bless you. This girl told us a story about these evil troll-like creatures that were messing with her grandmother. And then from her, we talked to her brother, or her brother-in-law, who lived in the States too. And then he started talking about when he was a translator over in Iraq. And then he introduced us to some soldiers, and then we got more stories. And it just kept going. We're just like, this is how you got to do. Why do people not do this? And I got to say this, I'm not trying to be an ass, but you know, there has to be some kind of like raise the bar. I heard Art Bell years ago complaining, and he said that there was the word epidemic, you know, again, I guess, but you know, there was an epidemic in this field of people just being lazy. The journalism is lazy. The research is lazy. The follow-up, you know, when you get somebody that'll talk to you, that's a good opportunity to you know. And I'm not expecting you to go in there and go through the hell I did with these groups and everything and stalking people and running to conferences and trying to interview people. Look, and making deals, I did. I very much did. I was wheeling and dealing, folks. I was making deals with people left and right. You can ask Josh Sanoga, Jody Cook. You know, I was talking to Brian Bowden, all these people that have been in this field longer than me. You know, David Weatherly, Ken Gerhardt, Lyle Blackburn. Some people that I don't talk to anymore because they're malcontents. But there's a lot of people that I dealt with and I talked to. Nick Valente, right? These people have the information. I needed that information. And when I used to work with Vic, I would pick Vic's brain quite a bit, and we would talk about a lot of these cases that he would get. And I did interview a lot of those people off to the side after, you know, I left Dogman Encounters. I didn't leave it. It was destroyed, and it was destroyed by, I believe, a certain individual who was very jealous and caused that rift between us. And that's on him to believe that person's bullshit, whatever. But I had a lot of respect for Vic at that time. But there's a lot of things people don't know. They don't know what I went through. You don't know the hell that I was put through by these people. Not necessarily him, but these people that were just doing what they did and doing what they do. They tried to destroy me right out the gate. And there were others that knew what was going on and just sat there. At best, they just sat there and watched us burn. And at worst, they actually were cheering it on, hoping that it would happen. Not really participating, but talking about behind our backs, like hoping that it would go down that way. This went on and on and on for all, you know. And honestly, people were getting tired of hearing about it. But dude, it nearly destroyed our lives. I nearly lost everything, including my wife's health, to this show, to get this information out there. So you damn well better believe that I take it seriously. When I tell you I take it seriously. So if people are out there and they're a aspiring whatever. And I tell people when they ask me the same thing, Linda Godfrey and Vic Cundiff and everybody told me when I first started in this field. Start in your own backyard. Find what is going on. And just keep going, because the rabbit hole goes deep. And there's a lot of rabbit holes. Believe me. So what I had to do was take out all of the background noise and go in and talk to these people. And I have to do this on a daily basis, folks. Tony, you, Anthony, you guys know that people think that this is it, that this little time we spend right here, this is the show. Tell them what the show really is.
Hours
Most of the
work.
show is not even here on camera. I mean, like it takes an overwhelming amount of time and energy and preparation that y'all never see. I mean, like honestly, 90% of the energy that goes into this show is not here on camera. It's when the cameras are not recording or live streaming. It's and all. If you want to do it right, if you want to do it correctly, if you want to do people's experiences justice when you're retelling them, if you want your presentation to be adequate, it's going to take a large amount of time. And honestly, a lot of it is time that we don't have, so we have to take away from other things that we have going on to do this, and we do that happily because this is important.
Mm-hmm.
But it is not an easy thing. If you want to do anything correctly or do anything right, it's not going to be easy, and you have to set your mind to it and put forth some effort.
Yeah.
Effort that most people are never going to see, and that they're never going to pat you on the back for it, and never going to really understand or appreciate it, but you do it anyway. So because what they see is the end result.
Yeah, and it's not just like a one person thing. Everybody puts in a lot of effort into this. Nelly makes the music. Wolf spends hours, talking to people and memorizing these stories and just getting them fleshed out perfectly to where he can orate them the way he does. Anthony and me, we do a lot of the tech stuff. Anthony does most of like the overheading of the tech stuff, making sure if we're going to do anything new, he figures it out, understands it, implements it. And then he teaches me how I can do it so that I can free up some of the burden off him so that he could focus on learning new stuff and making the show better. But then that lets me be there and overlook all this stuff. Maddie will go through the emails and help wherever she can. Everybody does a lot.
She does the mail off.
The mail offs.
Nelly does dead zone transmission. She helps get stories. She does talk to people.
I was just talking about just PRT.
No, I'm talking about
overall
getting the stories. Nelly helps with that because a lot of people will reach out to her because they can't get to me.
Mm-hmm.
So now she's become like the overflow for that.
It's a lot of work from almost everyone in the house. Like everyone works together to put out the product that we put out. So we want to make sure, we're proud of it, and to make sure it's done correctly, it takes having that kind of energy to be put into it. And every day, it's an everyday thing.
Really, Evan? Really? But here's the thing. Sean, here's the thing. When you stop and you take how much time we have to put into this, and then stop and realize we also run a very large company. By any stretch of the imagination, our security company is not a middle-sized company. It's a large company with over 120 contracts. That is a lot. And Anthony and me and my business partner, Marty, his name's Marty too, run it, and Tony helps out with that. And we have a field captain and we have a patrol people, and we have all these people in charge. And Chris, y'all met Chris. He came on the show and talked about this werewolf clown-like thing he saw one time. He's one of the managers. And I'm right there. Marty's my business partner. And there are dumbass people who said, well, you don't own the company. The hell I don't. Okay. Talk all you want. And these people that were saying that, they actually work for me, which makes them even bigger liars because they know the truth. Because You worked for me and you got let go. Who let you go? Was it Marty that let you go? No, I did. Right? Yeah. So you had to be let go because you weren't doing correct. You weren't doing things correct. And there was a lot of complaining about you. So you get on there and you talk all this crap, which you know damn well is not the truth. Stupid enough to go and try to ask Marty for a job. How are you going to circumvent me? Are you serious? The only reason Marty's not retired is because I asked him not to, because I don't want to deal with all of this alone with just me. And then Anthony, me, Tony, and Nellie, and everybody having to work on the show. And we have other people like Anthony's brothers who do things, and we have people who investigate things for us and message us and get back to us. And at any given time, we've had 2 or 3 people in the field giving me information and interviewing people. This is a full-time operation in of itself. And so we're running 2 full-time operations, and now we have Dead Zone Transmissions, which is Nellie's project. We have Paranormal Sound Table, which is Nellie's project. So she can't handle the overflow of the stories like she was starting to get stories. Tell me, talk to this person, talk to this person, talk to this person. She's got her own things going on now. She's got a lot to do. My brother is helping to finish up the vampire book, which hopefully will be out by the middle of next month. Hope. We hope that that's it. I think it's going to happen. And then on top of that, we have the other book that we're writing. That's trying to get done. And I got to deal with that. And I got to deal with the show. And I got to deal with the new channel. And I'm going to be doing some projects on Random Files. When I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Believe me, it's going to happen. It's probably going to be right here, and I'm going to talk about certain things. And if you're just into the paranormal, you may not want to tune into that, because I'm going to do a lot of stuff, and I'm going to talk about a lot of things, and I'm going to lay things down and explain things about history, science, economics, things that need to be talked about, geopolitics, things that need to be said so that you will understand the world around you and what's coming. There's going to be a collapse, folks, but it's not, to me, the end of the world. That's not the Armageddon. The economic collapse is going to lead to some very harsh things, harsh realities. I'm not talking about Mad Max, but you're going to have to make some financial decisions in your life. And I'm giving out this information for free. I just want you to be okay because you're paratroopers and I care about you. That's it. This is something, and I'm not tooting our horn, but this is something you're not going to get from these other people on these other channels. They may be nice to you, and if they, you go to a conference, or they might be nice to your face or whatever. You kind of have to be, don't they, to keep you involved. But I haven't even met a lot of you, and I'm going to do this for you because I want you to be okay. Because over the years, I have become very close with my audience. You are probably the smartest audience in the paranormal, cryptid, UFO community. You know why you're the smartest? Because those 3 genres, we brought them together and we did it first. Make no mistake. Nobody was doing that shit. We were told to shut up, stay in your lane, go away, attacked. And guess what? I kept going. I kept pushing. I put on one conference. It was big. Did another one. It was 50% more people. We could have kept going. But a madman up in Oklahoma and his buddies decided that they didn't like that and they wanted to try to destroy us. And so they went on a full-scale war against us. Subversive and everything, and then eventually just out in the open showing their Sith Lord selves that they're who they were. And we had to fight them. And we nearly lost everything fighting them. Our sub count went down. We lost a lot. People who donated left the show. We suffered big time. We suffered financially. People quit following us because of the drama. And people even accused us of manufacturing the drama, like we wanted the drama. And then people were calling us the drama channel. Do you think I wanted that? But one thing I wasn't going to do was sit back and let these people kick our ass and make up the slanderous lies, because there were a lot of people that left PRT because they believed these people's bullshit. But the revelations that came out from Jessica Christensen recently, I hope that puts a dagger in this. She hates me. I know that. And even though, what she was saying was vindicating me, you could tell it was like chewing nails for her. Because one thing, people don't like to be wrong. And it's even harder when you have to sit there and say that I'm wrong, and it was because of somebody that she really was infatuated with. And what their domestic squabble is none of my, I don't give a shit. I just want these people to pay for what they've done, and they will. In the meantime, I got things I got to do. We also have a ranch. We split time. We got to go back and forth, and we're constantly on the go, sleeping for 4 to 5 hours a day if you're lucky. And then we get up here and we tell stories, and people want to talk about, oh, all he does is sit his fat ass in a chair and talk and tell stories. You know what? You know what you and your mama can do? You know where you can go? Over there with that bullshit. That's what you can do. Because you obviously aren't doing what we're doing. So that's why you're able to sit there and say that, because you don't do that. You roll out of bed and go wander around in some patch of grass behind your fucking house, behind your trailer, and pretend like you're looking for Ghost and Dogman or whatever. All of you are ticks, not you, the audience, but all of them are ticks feeding off of what PRT built. We started talking about the vampires and their cults, and then everybody was doing it.
The vampire confessions and the werewolf confessions.
Werewolf confession. Now everybody's saying, "Oh, these things are werewolves." Yeah, I thought of that. No, you didn't. No, you didn't, because you didn't. Okay, don't tell me that that's what I stuck by that, and I kept saying there's something else going on here. Now everybody's latching on to that.
The black goo too. The
black goo. They're globbing on, no pun intended, to that. Who talked about this first, folks? Remember, we set the tone, and there are a lot of bigger channels that got a lot bigger audience because they have the sexier whatever, the machinations that they do is sexier. But who were the ones that broke the ground? We did. PRT. We set the gold standard in this community, and everybody ran over here and started saying, yeah, we did it. And some of these people are literally copying and pasting my work. They're misquoting me. They're writing books, and they're going on YouTube, and they're just reading my work. There's a few people on what's it called, TikTok, TikTok, who are literally just taking my stuff and putting it on there, and that's it. Now, there's a couple of them that are nice enough to give me credit, but some of them don't. They don't give a shit. All you hear is my voice. And they pass this shit off as their own ideas and their own stuff. You know what? Do whatever the F you got to do, because what I care about are the people right here. Those are the people that I give a shit about. The ones that were here, that continue to come to listen. Those are the people that I care about. And if you're a part of the members only, name in green, and you're on the Patreon, and you're dude, thank you so much, because you are the people that are keeping this show going. Because it's always the same people donating, always the same people. And I wish that I could get people to understand we need financial help to keep the show going. And I don't want to sit here and ask. But these fuckers are like, oh, he's begging for money. Well, if that's what you want to call it, then call it what you want to call it, because we have to keep the show going. Because we're not going to make it by just the same people donating every time. We need people to step up. It doesn't matter if it's $1 or $10 or whatever. Or join the Patreon, join the members only, because I'm spending 2 days out of my week every week prepping and doing those shows for the people who are paying. And I promise you, if I have to, I will go fully behind a paywall, because I've had enough. I've had enough of the attacks. I've had enough of the slander and the lies. And some of these idiots that aren't worth a shit, that don't do nothing. They do nothing for this community at all. And then they go on other people's shows and get 1 million views, and people look at them like they did something. And I'm telling you, I'm really tired of it, dude. I'm really sick and tired of these people. And they'll do anything for $1. And I won't. There's a whole lot of things we could be doing. We could load this up with sponsorships, which we may have to keep the show going. But it's been 7 going on 8 years. And we just went behind the paywall this past year. And we didn't even stop doing the other shows. But that may happen. We're talking now, we might just do 2 regular shows a week, and then everything else is going to be behind the paywall, because we have to keep the show going. Because we're not going to make it. It's just the bottom line. But remember, even if we don't, things, whatever, Whatever platform we're on and wherever we go, whatever we do, just remember it's been one hell of a ride, and we've had a great time here at Paranormal Roundtable. And I appreciate everybody who comes here and helps and watches, and at the very least, like and subscribe. Get your friends to subscribe and like. And if you don't like me, you don't like what I'm saying, you can fuck off. Go ahead. I don't care. I don't give a shit if you like me or you don't like me. You don't like my views. Somebody said something about what I said on Facebook. I'll show you exactly what somebody had something to, I unsubscribe from you because you're at the Facebook. And yeah, dude. And I give a shit. Why? I don't. Here it is right here. This is from Anna Choate. They didn't like this. Christ is Lord. So what is the biblical protocol for dealing with baby eaters? Right? Say it. Say Christ is Lord. They don't like it. They don't like it. They're like, I don't like this. This is ugly. Good. We'll separate the wheat from the chaff, right? 1 second. Hold on. They're like, I don't like this. Another person didn't like Putin or whatever. I don't give a shit what you like. I don't care. I'm going to do what I like. I'm going to do what I think is right. The 18. I'm going to do what I think is right. I'm going to do what I like. If you don't like it, don't join. Don't be involved. What I want is serious people who are seriously into the truth. You want to know what's going on? Why did these people? And we're going to do a show on the Random Files about this, the Epstein. And we're going to start dropping some non-paranormal stuff over there and some paranormal stuff. But check out True Crime Paranormal. We're going to be covering the Chris Watts case after the Ed Gein thing ends this week. Thank you for that donation. We appreciate it. But I got to tell you something. It needs to be talked about. And why are these people not being rounded up and prosecuted? Why is it that these people can brag about eating your children? Has anybody thought about that? Why is it okay?
Because I know nothing will happen to them.
So that's it for now, folks. I got to run. No giveaways tonight. Sorry, I got to run. I just, we got a late start, and I've just been tired, and I'm just really tired. And thank you for sticking around when, we got started late on a weeknight and still put 400 people in the chat. These people that are predicting my downfall and my demise and all this other bullshit, blah, 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 whatever, blah, blah, blah. I got to say this too. They're like, his numbers are down. Yeah, because we're starting the show at like damn 9 o'clock because we're running late every freaking day. That's all that is. Start earlier, you get more people. It's simple as that. But we can't because we have a business to run. And we don't have people that are sponsoring us because some of these sponsors that we could have gotten, we don't want them.
Yeah. I'm
not going to promote their shit. I'm not going to wear their products, and I'm not going to tell you to do it. You think I want to tell you to eat something that's got erythritol in it or xylitol? It's got too much xylitol that can make you sick, give you gastrointestinal problems, or give you strokes and heart attacks. I'm not going to do it. Or tell you to wear a beard or put a beard oil in your hair that's going to make your beard break off like a freaking piece of peanut brittle. I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to talk to people who have good products and good things, and I'll tell you, hey, wear this shit or do this because this is what I do. And if it's not good, then I guess I'm in trouble because I was wearing it too. I hope I don't get sick, whatever. I'm the same person here that I am out away from the show. Believe that because it's the truth. All right, guys, we love you. Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow night. Tomorrow night is the what is it? The members only, right?
Yep.
So what do we have? Is it a live stream or is it a pre-record?
Well, we can do either or, because last Thursday I think we did both. Like we dropped a pre-record and then we did a live stream.
Oh, that's awkward.
Yeah, because we did the live stream called "A Vampire Lived in My House," and then we did "Vampires in Mexico" as a pre-recorded podcast episode.
So do we leave it to the
On the
audience?
same day?
Yeah.
We
The
got-
Vampire Lived in My House was the Wednesday show.
They're both dated for last Thursday.
No, but that had to be Vampire Lived in My House was Wednesday show. And then Locked In with the Vampire was Sage's story.
Yeah, that was Friday.
That was the Friday story.
Yeah.
He told the story of the vampire in his house. I don't know, man. I don't. Well, let's take a vote. I mean, if y'all guys will show up tomorrow, I'll do another live stream tomorrow, and then we'll do the Friday show. Will be the second episode with Sage Cooley.
Mhm.
And pay attention to the shows that are going to be going on, because some of these shows are going to they're interlinking.
Yeah.
We talked about one a guy. His name is Jeff. I mean, he gave me permission to use his last name, but I mean, it doesn't matter. Anyway, Jeff, and I think he's going to be on another guy's show pretty soon, but I wanted to get his story out. Him and his brother, Dwayne, they found a something in the woods, and then it leads to there's Bigfoot and Dogman in the story. It's weird. And it happened up in Washington in the Olympic Forest. And it kind of ties into some of the things that Sage Cooley and I and Anthony are going to be going over on Friday's show, right? This Friday and next Friday.
Mhm.
So you're going to want to watch those, because then there's going to be a pre-record drop that's going to come out. And Jeff and Dwayne's story is very compelling. They're pretty funny guys too. They love to rag on each other. Like they're like me and my brother.
Couple goofs.
Goofs. Don't say that, because in Canada that's a horrible thing, according to Sean and Dick. But no, they love to crack on each other. But they were fun guys to talk to. And I tell you what, man, there's another one coming out too. She was crazy to talk to. Marguerite.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The Lobozan of Brazil. That dude, I'm telling you, I think I figured some stuff out with that one. Every time we do something with Brazil, I figure some stuff out. The exorcism from Brazil, or the Brazilian exorcist, whatever, and then that one too. The way thought forms can possibly make things happen. It's a weird thing, dude. But anyway, folks, check out all the shows. Join the Patreon, join the members only, and it all kind of links together. It's all tied together. If you don't do anything else with your time, watch every episode of Paranormal Roundtable. Not so we can get views and likes. Yeah, that helps. But because it will help you have a better understanding of the paranormal and the world you live in. And the paranormal is UFOs, alien abduction, ghosts, Bigfoot, vampires, werewolves. It's all part of that. Dogman, whatever. It's all of the above. Trust me, angels, demons, the war between good and evil, light and dark, it is all part of it. Listen to the stories. Listen to what we tell you. And when somebody comes on the show on a Monday or a Friday or whatever, listen to what they're saying. I'm telling you, these people, they're telling you what has happened in their life. Go back and listen to that Locked In with a Vampire. It's crazy. Down in the basement. Remember the woman in Maine?
Mm-hmm.
Was it Maine? Or was it Michigan? It was Maine, right?
Yeah, it was Maine.
She had that thing, that shadow thing. And the next thing you know, she became anemic, which seems to happen a lot with these cases. And then she started craving blood. She was a borderline vegetarian. She was a pescatarian, only ate fish.
Yeah.
If she ate anything, meat, and you know, crazy stuff. I remember real quick, and then we got to go. My dad talking about how he was having weird, like he couldn't sleep and was having nightmares and stuff. And then he went and got checked, and he was anemic. That's weird.
Yeah.
Had never been anemic, and then became asthmatic. So something to that, man. I'm telling you, this transcends the spiritual. Is read what Putin said about the war, that he's facing a spiritual war against Satan. It's weird, right?
Yeah.
He's talking about vampires and Satan and all this stuff, and how we need to be careful because these people have a lot of power, right? And they gave their power to the beast, right, to make war with God, to try to. That's what they're doing. But you're going to lose. You're going to fail. Join the war against Satan. Right? Watch PRT. Help us out. Get this information out, this knowledge out before this vessel is gone. Right? Before yours is gone. Learn. Listen. Pay attention. Watch. Empower yourself. Right? Be a paratrooper. All right, guys. We'll see you. Good night.
Pen to paper, a lost friend's letter. In darkness I travel, my eyes upon a house disheveled. Walking the halls, all the pain I see, paranoia and anxiety. Usher was telling me, paranoia rising, the house is hearing, influencing spirits haunting, the house of Usher is falling. I can't how it can be, the house that leaves its possessing, books and songs to help calm, the words brought sounds from beyond, mental illness growing thin, something's under his skin, what is he hearing? Paranoia rising, the house is listening, influencing spirits haunting, the house of Usher is falling. Plans not fair, we left her there, a tomb cold, but for her it could not hold. Paranoia rising, the house is listening, like the wind